So here's a video. So Hasan and DJ Akademiks debating, I think, maybe Kanye West. I don't really know the specifics. Saw it last night, posted. Kind of interested in watching it. So that's what we're gonna do. Seems like a pretty cool watch. I'm excited. A little excited. I'm curious. That's a better word to say.
Hello?
Hey, what's up?
Hey.
Let me get my video right.
So what happened? You were talking about Kanye West. I guess someone in the chat brought me up. You were upset about my words with respect to the Channel 5 interview that you conducted?
Yeah, I wouldn't say necessarily upset. I said that you're someone who I watch, but I felt you were out of touch in terms of your commentary on that particular clip. And it made me look at you in a different way because I've watched you comment on stuff that I'm less knowledgeable on. And when I've watched you comment on things, if I didn't have enough time to do my own independent research, I always took you at face value, right?
Ooh.
And then when you commented on that, it was so surface level that I felt I was like, damn, maybe this whole time I'm watching this, because I watch a lot, bro. Like, you know what I mean? Again, we're all creators.
Wow.
We probably watch certain stuff of each other, right? And I'm like, damn, maybe I'm just kind of, you're really popular at the moment. I'm buying too much into the sauce of, you're really reasonable. And that's why I usually watch you. Like,
Wow. That's a... Oh, okay. Wow. I guess I never thought of it as somebody who, like, because when I've covered Hasan, it's been him getting things wrong, like the Gideon situation and stuff like that. And so, like, I never thought of it. There are people who are like sitting there watching him and they're like, yeah, this is my only source of information. I'm going to exclusively take this person's word for it. And that's why I get all the Hasan defenders, because all you guys use him as your primary source of information. Interesting.
he's reasonable, rational, and rational actually. And he's usually just serving it straight. And then when I watched you do the commentary on the Channel 5 stuff, and you were speaking along the lines of not only media in hip hop, but you were speaking about, the dynamics of even a place like Chicago. Again, I looked at it, I was like, man.
Oh, he's talking about the O-Town video. I don't know the specifics about it. That's going to be the hard thing, is I'm not going to be able to do a ton of like fact checking, because I know from experience of seeing the way Hasan talks about topics after the fact is he's generally, honestly, kind of dishonest about his interpretations after the fact. Like with the Gideon thing, with the whole Gideon situation, right? This is a good example if you care to look into it. But the issue with Hasan's thing was that instantaneously in the video, he started it off by saying something along the lines of like, "Oh, Gideon doesn't really care about these topics." He doesn't really care about these topics, kind of a thing. Okay, so what happened is he started the video up. Gideon was like, "I'm going to go to the most racist town in America." And right, so Hasan's first thing was basically like, "Oh, you're going to whitewash this." Okay. After that, Gideon has said, "Oh, the reason I'm here is not only am I I'm black, and I'm a content creator." Right. And then Hasan followed it up with saying that you don't actually care about this. That's all very shitty and very invalidating. Then in the follow-up, he tried to make it seem he focused exclusively on the end where Gideon had the conversation with the KKK member guy. And there's a reasonable criticism to say that you don't think that he should be platforming him. But he focused on like, "Oh, I was just giving you a reasonable criticism about this, that, and this." And no, you weren't. You were starting it off by like being very invalidating of him. And then you harped on this point you felt really strong on. So like Hasan is very good at basically, retelling the story in an inaccurate way. And so it's hard for us to like just take what he says at face value.
I think he lacked the context, and I never thought he was the person to be very firm in an opinion without having an abundance of supporting facts.
In particular, what was some of my statements that you didn't agree with? Like maybe as far as like how it pertains to you might not agree with that, but as far as violence in Chicago, I've always maintained the same position that I've maintained across the board on white supremacy, white supremacist institutions, and more importantly, the consequences on black people, black population, and how the main reason is not rap music, but instead the main reason has always been the socioeconomic conditions that black people have faced historically.
And we don't disagree there. So that's not what we're disagreeing.
And that was my overarching point on the Channel 5 conversation across the board.
No, 100%, right? And by the way, I agree with this. So we're starting off at a point of agreement where I'm like, I agree with that point you said, and I think if that's your overarching point of view on it, I agree. This is where I disagree, right? I disagree once we get into the dynamics of now an existing industry that is capitalizing off of the story.
Wait, I'm turning on my camera.
And also the plight of
so you can see me as well.
All right, perfect. So my whole thing was, once we get into the point where we're talking about an industry. So again, I'm not just talking about just a community. Now we're talking about the music industry and how it actually, if you think about hip hop, it not only weaponizes certain things from certain type of environments, it also monetizes it, right? And when we think about even drill music, it's not just simple as, I felt the broad brush that was painted and painted incorrectly. I spoke to even Adam 22. We've had multiple back and forths about this. Adam 22 said he even spoke to Andrew might be fucking
Andrew Callahan.
Yeah.
Callahan.
Okay.
Great. And he admitted that maybe the portrayal wasn't all the way fair in itself, because I think the majority of people who watched that thought that there was an exterior and outside force that was probably, inciting, agitating, and also being the beneficiary of what that violence was in that inner city community.
Record labels.
Okay. Oh, I'm glad you're saying that now. But
I said that back then as well. It's a position that I've talked about quite frequently, which is that.
So what is DJ Akademiks like issue here? Is he what it sounds like to me, what I'm getting out of this, and I could just be wrong. It sounds like what he's saying is that there's no longer a negative outside force, and like it's an internalized black community issue, or maybe that's the opposite. I have to like listen more. I'm a little unclear on the perspective that's being had here.
That I think that record label executives and record labels in general are motivated by profit, and therefore do not care about black bodies in the streets, especially when time and time again, when an artist, when a young black artist pops off, if they go to prison, their records sell more.
Or maybe it's
pop
the
off and
opposite.
Die, even after that, the record label will oftentimes engage in actions that are really fucked up and exploitative, and continue to release their music. And that in and of itself, I think, is a way bigger problem. But I still think that ultimately, record labels' profit-seeking behavior in this regard is not helpful. But overall, the main problem is always going to be material conditions.
And by the way, I don't think anytime you see someone covering that, and by the way, I've always said, I just interviewed a rapper who's from the environment. I just dropped the podcast on Spotify, G Herbo. And I did tell him, my coverage of, that era of quote unquote drill music was definitely very amateur in itself. And obviously, if you ask me now if I could do things better or do things different, of course, you probably, if I look back at like your commentary 5 years ago, or let's say I go back 7 years ago, maybe you'd be like, even if you would have the same fundamental stance, you probably wouldn't go about it the same way, given the effect that you would have knowing the platform that you have now, right? Is that fair?
I think that, my statements have been pretty consistent overall. But
I mean, you should say yes, because like how many years ago was it when on like the Young Turks where you were doing some dumbass shit? Like, you have to say yes. You literally, there's no way that like everybody should be saying like, yeah, I could fundamentally be doing better than I was, or I'm doing better than I was 5 years ago. I had some ignorant takes, like, the whole take that Russia had some kind of a claim to parts of Ukraine, like shit like that, like really dumb, abysmal like commentary. I don't know how far it was, but then like it might have been like maybe it was a little more than 5 years ago when he was doing the whole like bro thing on the Young Turks, where he was like basically like a fucking manosphere red pill guy. Like, why wouldn't he just say, yeah, true, good point?
But I did have opinions that I no longer agree with now.
Yeah,
if
sure.
that's what you're saying, like, which I have used as a opportunity to educate people time and time again, because I think that a lot of people will start off on the wrong foot. Bigoted takes. Like I've been very open about this. Like, I have a pretty trans positive community, probably the largest, trans space that is on the internet. But I had transphobic opinions, misogynist opinions in the past.
Yeah, like you remember when you talked to Christian Walker, and then you told the trans person who said that you could have covered it a little better, that you hope that they have a miserable life. That was somewhat recently. I'm just saying, dude.
That are well documented, and I've used that always to say, look, I'm a product of my environment. I'm a product of my social conditioning. And just like everybody else is, and I always use that as an educational opportunity for others, that like I've changed my perspective and you can as well. This level of like empathetic thinking I extend to the criminal justice system, which I think is
I just feel like this is going like way too deep. I'm not trying to be an asshole, but this is like super filled with like way more than it needs to be. The Akademiks was just like, yeah, man, like I remember talking about coverage for like particular rap scene 5 years ago, and my take has changed because I've gotten a little bit older, and I don't know if you'd agree with that. And then Hasan's going on to like a whole rant. I'm not trying to be an asshole. I know these are the situations where a lot of you guys are like, you're being biased, but it just like seems like an over answer. It just kind of seems like he's trying to sound smart. Like, you can give concise answers, but like, yeah, I feel you on that, brother. I'm same here. But he's just kind of going like, it just seems unnecessary to be expanding to this point.
Genuine problem in America. But overall, I recognize that some of the things I said were wrong, and have used it as an opportunity to educate others into not feeling that way either, or not even feeling trapped because they have said certain things in the past. However, having said that, that also comes with the recognition of saying that I was wrong. Do you feel like you were wrong about your coverage of Chirac?
And this is where I said that I felt like you were only going by the documentary, right? Because, of anyone who's really covered any part of rap culture, right? And I mean, I have history here to go with, right? We could go back to the source. We could go back to Double XL covering the beef between Tupac and Biggie, right? Many people in the culture believe they're the one who created this East Coast, West Coast war that made many artists feel like they have to be a part of it or had to do something, right? Never took a responsibility. When it came to the whole Chicago thing, I've always said, hey, listen, I was young at the moment. I saw these guys calling themselves demons and savages. I made up a couple nicknames for them, and I was trying to showcase the ridiculousness to satire. That's very true. And granted, where my platform grew to, and also where that even platform at the time, which wasn't mainstream, but still it was, it was influential, where that grew to, looking back on it on hindsight, I've always said this. I'm the first person to say I throw my hat into the ring to say there's shared responsibility in terms of accountability that should be taken. I've always been saying, and by the way, the platform Clubhouse. I've been on there multiple times talking to many people who are in the inner city communities from Chicago, acknowledging, hey, listen, maybe this was intended, but I was a part of blah, blah, blah. I've always just said, I feel like people like the convenient scapegoat. And I've always just said, if you go up that ladder of the people who really benefit from it back then or now, right? Lil Durk he's selling a billion records but
Lil Durk is like the one person, don't you agree, is the one person who should be making money talking about his own personal experience and his own personal development and upbringing. We're talking about other factors that then go in and make money off of his labor, off of his art, off of him communicating his own personal experiences. And record labels are one element here. And then another is, like you said, XXL magazine with respect to like Biggie and Pac.
I don't mean to cut you off, but we have to stay on that point. Because it does become at a certain point, and this is why this conversation is so. That's why I said, like, you have to be in the culture to see what.
Hey! You're very annoying. Okay.
What's going on? What we're talking about.
I'm not in the culture. I mean, that's not something that I mean, that's something that I readily admit. I've never even been to Chicago. I don't think you have been. I don't think.
I find it very interesting, like some of the expectations. So right now, I'm listening to a conversation between two people. What I find very interesting is I have someone in the chat that's having a disproportionate meltdown because I haven't done 15 hours of pretext conversation or investigation on who DJ Akademiks is. You guys are weird, right? I'm listening to a conversation between Hasan and DJ Akademiks, right? And they're having conversations about like the rap community. So it's an interesting conversation because I'm not super educated on it. But your expectation is that I should double down and completely agree with everything Hasan says because you think DJ Akademiks is a lying piece of shit scumbag. And because I don't have this take that DJ Akademiks is a lying piece of shit scumbag, according to you, I didn't do the research. When the reality is first of all, the way I research is I watch content live. That's how I've always done it for like 2 years. That's number one. Number two, there are times where everybody messes up when it comes to getting things right and wrong, even the people who are the most critical on other people, right? This isn't one of them. You're an idiot that is parroting something because you feel sad that I don't agree with your perspective. That's it. You're just parroting dumb shit from some other dumb motherfucker that just been like, you don't do research, you don't do research, you don't do research. This is the research. This is how I've always done my content. I think it's a little bit ironic when you come in here saying, I remember Papa God used to do research. I used to do the same content forever. I watch a video and I explore my thoughts and feelings as I watch the video. There's no magical thing that I could do to understand who DJ Akademiks is in a comprehensive way before the conversation. And I'm not going to do a 15-hour DJ Akademiks rundown on, what do you want me to do, find a video essayist who talks about this guy? Is that what you want me to do? Find a video essayist who talks about, I'm not ingrained in this culture. So I'm listening to a conversation like I mostly do. That's all it is. It's okay to disagree with me. It's okay to be frustrated because I don't have the same interests as you guys and don't have like a particularly in-depth understanding of this guy here on the screen. But like, you're an idiot if you think that like that I didn't do enough preparation for this topic. That's it. That's all it is. From what I'm seeing, it sounds like Hasan is having a nice conversation with this guy, and they both sound very intelligent. Okay. So, yeah, like I have videos literally called Educating Myself on. Okay. I've never really changed fundamentally how I do my content. So, it does get annoying when very unintelligent people consistently assert I haven't done the research when I'm in the middle of a conversation listening to what they're saying on a topic. That's it. You guys are sheep. I love constructive criticism, and I hear it from some people every day, which is perfectly great. But you're not being constructive. You're being obnoxious. You're just screaming, crying, shitting, and coming because we disagree. You are a sensitive baby that has a disagreement with me, and so that makes you feel like you can just say whatever stupid thing comes to your childish fucking undeveloped brain. That's it. And it's annoying. So if you're going to be an unintelligent baby about your criticisms of me, like, don't expect to be respected. Because it's... Ooh, I hit the wrong button. It's childish. And it's obnoxious. Like, grow up. For sure. Like, grow up. Like, learn how to express yourself properly or don't express yourself at all. Like, those are two very viable options that you can operate with. Right? Because then you make yourself look stupid and you feel embarrassed. Like, in this situation. Because you should feel stupid. And if you don't, then you have no self-awareness. So there you go. I am more consistent than you, just generally speaking. Just chill the fuck out. Disagree like a respectable person. You don't have to cap block spam in my chat because you don't get attention from your father at home. Okay? It's okay.
I think you were in the streets of Chicago while you were covering Chicago, but, you know, that's besides the point. You know more than I do about the culture, for sure.
Okay, but hear what I'm trying to say. What we're talking about, keep in mind, and I always have to put a time and date to it, right? When I did the war in Chirac, quote unquote, I did it from, it's a 2014 to 2017 thing, right? We're in 2022, 5 years actually after I've ever done it. When I mentioned Dirk, Lil Durk is currently making songs that's inciting and also mocking deaths of people that's happened as recent as like 8 months ago. So I hear this. Why I say you're out of touch, because if you could say that what I did 5 years ago, which literally has way less of an impact than what a Lil Durk would do, and you're like, oh, well, you shouldn't do it. Lil Durk is a millionaire. He's made at least, listen, just off raw estimation, maybe 100 million. He's not in the same situations anymore. This is not Lil Durk who's like really in these situations of choice. This is someone who knows what sells. This is someone who knows what marketing is. This is someone who's been dropped from a record label, who's tried different methods of trying to make it and realized that, hey, what people like is when I exploit and I sing about bloodthirsty music. And even if it means inciting stuff that feds just locked up somebody literally like 8 months ago for a murder of a very popular rapper, he's inciting it. He's dissing people. So again, I ask you, and I'm like,
I kind of get what he's saying. Okay. So I don't know who this person is, but apparently they're doing some scummy shit by like talking about like some, I get like, situations that seem to be out of, or things that you're not supposed to talk about in the community. I really wish that we had fucking healers though. Okay.
There's no blame to be laid to the rapper's feet.
And like Hasan defended that. He defended him. It sound because like what it sounded like Hasan was just saying that the guy deserves money for making his own music and that he should have like autonomy over like his money and kind of just having like an anti-capitalist take. It doesn't sound particularly bad. I wonder if there's like a little more to that.
Who's made it? We're not talking about these. You know, one of the regrets I always said about the war in Chirac, they were kids. They didn't have no resources. They were broke. They were just trying to make it. We're talking about guys who realize that they're signing $50 million record labels, record deals. I mean. And it's incentivized for them to keep propelling and keep propagating that violence through their music today.
Oh, okay. It sounds like DJ Akademiks is trying to talk about pulling some of the violence out of rap and hip hop, and how like there's guys who have a lot of money and they don't need to talk about these experiences and they're just having a negative impact on the game. Is that what he's saying? Because I can respect that take. What's Hasan talking about then?
Still do it, and that's why I say you would be out of touch, because could you sit here and cognizantly say, while this guy is living in the upper echelon of Atlanta and also Beverly Hills, he should be still with his huge platform, which is, when I mean exponentially, 10, 20, maybe 100 or 200 times more than Academics, still fueling the rap beef, still fueling the violence from where he came from. But why is he doing it?
I feel that. I feel that. Okay, that I respect that. Yeah, I mean, listen, music has like a profound impact on everybody's life. And like if these guys are really big and influential, and he's just saying like, yo, it's really bad for the culture and the community for him to be talking this way when it comes to like the music, because it's giving like young people, it's keeping beef going on between, I'm assuming, like some kind of a gang situation, and it's giving, oh, we just like our alts did not synergize well, and it's just putting off like it's putting off like bad energy into like the fucking space. That makes sense. I respect that. What's Hasan's issue with that take?
Straight for profit at this point, because it's not out of necessity. He doesn't live there anymore.
Yeah. I mean, it's still his culture. It's still his background. I think
Wait,
that ultimately the point I was always trying to make is that music in and of itself is not.
Wait, why defend that point? Like, yeah, it's his call. He can do whatever he wants with his money. Like, we all know this. Like, we understand that like he can do what he wants or whatever he wants. The guy's just talking about like, yo, it's a bad influence on like these fucking young people. Basically, that's what I'm getting out of it. Why is Hasan disagreeing with that take? That's an environmental take. That's just going to keep the shit going worse just by being antagonistic. I actually respect the fuck out of that take. Okay. Yeah. Oh, what's wrong with that? Like, I understand that Hasan's saying they have the right to make the music because like they live there, it's their experience. That's fine. But like, we're not talking about what they have the legal right to. We're having a moral conversation, which Hasan should be more open to, because legally capitalism exists, but Hasan would argue morally, exploitative labor shouldn't exist, right? Like, so, we're having like this fundamental argument about, or conversation about what's legal versus what's moral, and why would he disagree with this? This doesn't even seem like it aligns with Hasan's perspective. Why would he disagree with this statement? I don't understand.
Music in and of itself is just a product of the experiences that you have, right? Culture is like a mirror. You can try, if your mirror has smudge on it, and you can try to clean that mirror. Ultimately, what?
Yeah, I know, but like, isn't that why you would want to change the culture? And since this guy's such like a prolific artist in the environment, wouldn't he want to change it by like not talking about these things and fueling rap beefs? Like, this doesn't make sense.
Whatever is reflecting back from that mirror is whatever is the reality. And what I mean by that is, Lil Durk is simply making a profit or rapping about his own personal experiences. Okay. Regardless of his actions, I think that the
this is a really
impact
bad
that music has is marginal, just like the impact that you have is marginal in your coverage. Okay? Which was my point overall. My point always was that what is
really dumb.
What is infinitely more prescient, what is infinitely more important with respect to violence in the streets, gang violence, or any kind of violent activity happening as a product of people's existences, as a product of people's experiences, is happening as a consequence of inadequate funding, happening as a consequence of redlining.
Bro, this is, honestly, I'm not trying to be a fucking asshole. This is just Hasan pretending to be smart. Listen, I understand there are much deeper issues than rap music going on when it comes to like black communities. But like, you can only advocate for so much. You can only and DJ Akademiks is like, yo, bro, I noticed one of the problems outside of, basically issues of systemic racism is that like you have some artists, like this individual apparently, is keeping shit going. So what's wrong with that? What's the large backstory I'm missing out on? Like, what is it you feel I'm wrong about? Because I don't understand how DJ Akademiks is wrong when he says, hey, people shouldn't be propagating hate and gang violence in this shit. Just give me a quick explanation. Are you saying that he used to do the same thing? Because it sounds like he admitted that. So what's wrong with what he's doing?
Happening as a consequence of historic and contemporary white supremacy. This is what I mean when I say the material conditions are infinitely more important, which is precisely what I was mentioning in that conversation with you as well.
Wait, I'm not disagreeing. I'm talking about lame blame, because that's where we're having these conversations. What some people think is in post. You get what I mean? Like, for example, that's why I said your lack of understanding of what's going on. That drill music these days is probably one of the top 3 most prevalent and most popular and most lucrative type of music that any type of
drill music?
And it's spread to the UK, Toronto, Jacksonville. It's in New York. So when I say that to you, do you really think that it's a fair place?
Oh, it sounds like let's see, the origin of Chocolate Streets are similar to trap music genres. Okay, I got you.
Of blame, especially even these days, right? Philly has the worst murder rate. You can look it up by capita currently, right? They're also getting into this same type of style. What I did with the war in Chirac ended in 2017. Lil Durk just got a multi-platinum record where he's making fun of another popular rapper who just died last year. Lil Durk is way up. He is not in the position of these people who you're trying to act like, oh, they're victims of circumstances. These people are now, they're the villains of opportunity, where they're like, yo, hey, so that's why I always look at people who are misinformed. I said, well, if we're going to have the proper conversation, number one, I never started it, right? Granted, did I say I have zero blame to take? I think I took some blame even in this, and I've always publicly said it. I said everybody who has thought about when it comes to drill music does not want to have the real discussion. Because when you're saying it's part of Lil Durk's story, what part of Lil Durk's story now when he's rapping about all these millions that he has and all the things he could do financially and he's in Beverly Hills, what part of that has to do with him inciting a gang war? And this is a gang war, my brother. When you sit here and you make a song called Should
I'm understanding a little more now. So he's saying not only is he continuing like all this like violence and whatnot going on in the community, but he's also creating more of it that he won't have to deal with. He's not going to be attached to it because he lives in another area. So when he like exacerbates issues between different gangs, he doesn't even live in an area where it would have a negative impact on him. And it's not just the gangs that have a negative impact; it's the people that live in those areas as well. Okay.
have ducked, and you know that one of the biggest rappers who was upcoming was called FBG Duck, and you're making fun of his death. That's when the feds just arrested 3 people, actually more than 3, about 4 to 5 people from O Block, basically saying these guys were responsible for their death. If you think that it starts or it stops with Akademiks, you're just not like.
But I don't think that, and I think I've been trying to hammer on this point over and over again. I don't think you are as relevant as you think I said you were in this conversation as it pertains to beefing up gang violence. In the video itself, I have talked about how it was unhelpful, and you recognize that as well, okay? But ultimately, the real relevant component with respect to violence is always going to be material conditions. Okay, that is the larger overarching issue, and I think that you and I probably agree on that as well. There are responsible parties that are not from these areas that are also taking advantage of the situation and making money off of this kind of back and forth violence, and in certain instances quite literally instigating it. But if the actors that are instigating it are people like Lil Durk, well, they're still from these communities. They still have family members in these communities. They still have a direct relationship with these communities. So when they are making art, when they're making art about their own personal experiences, it might have an incendiary or inciting component to it, right? It might. And I'm sure you know better than I do about Lil Durk's discography.
Let me extrapolate. You saying that?
Yeah. Okay. So it sounds. Yeah. Not for. This is just woke like masturbating here. That's it. It sounds like we have 2 opposing sides, right? Did we lose again? Damn, I'm having a bad day today. We have 2 sides here. Okay. We have DJ Akademiks side, who's saying that he thinks that like what would you say, like more violent antagonistic rap is a problem, and you have this person Dirks, right, who is keeping up the gang violence. He keeps like exacerbating tensions. He keeps talking about like starting beefs up, despite the fact that he doesn't even live in that area, which is going to have a negative impact on those people, and he shouldn't be doing that. And on the other side, we have Hasan saying like, well, the greater impact is like, material conditions, systemic racism. Obviously agreeable, but like I don't understand why we're having this conversation. What doesn't Hasan just say like, yeah, we're both right and move on? It just feels like Hasan's desperate to say that this other person, Dirks, has no responsibility. He's just a complete victim of circumstance and he can't change. But he's a rich person now, so he doesn't need to keep rapping in a way that, from what Akademiks is saying, is violent to his community or negative for his community. Dirks, Joe Dirks, Ro Dirks, what is it? X Dirks, right? He runs O Block. Okay. Either way, how do I not know Dirk? Because I don't listen to rap, bro. I'm the whitest fucking person you know. It just sounds like he's having a negative impact on the community, and DJ Akademiks is calling it out, and Hasan's just like desperate to fucking like woke bomb this conversation by saying, well, systemic racism, which we understand is true. But like, why can't people call out bad shit in their own culture? Like, I don't understand, like, the over-policing of this situation. That's what I don't get. It just seems like a very simple situation. Like, we all know systemic racism has a negative impact, but there's also, on the ground, things that you can change. systemic changes like happen on a systemic level, governmental level, big levels. But there's still changes that can be made in particular communities if they want to make them, which DJ Academics seems to be advocating for. I don't understand why is this why is this something that, like, I don't understand why Hasan can't just take the L on this one. It's not that big of a deal. He's just defending another rich person. That's what it comes off as. It just sounds like, okay.
It's kind of like, you know, when Kanye's jumping out saying like, yo, he's still a slave, or when he's going at Jewish people, like, essentially these guys are privileged guys who we're talking about now. Like you keep saying.
I think Kanye has a little bit more privilege than Lil Durk does. Like proximity wise, like Lil Durk is closer to O Block than Kanye is to his original beginnings in Chicago. I mean, he's a billionaire. I think that, you know,
who cares if Academics isn't part of gang culture? Like, does that make his argument worse? Is he still wrong? Is he wrong? What's he wrong about? That's what I would ask the question about. What is it that he's wrong about? I don't understand. Like, but I don't get it.
Both of those statements could be true.
Neither
but
is
there's definitely a larger impact on one.
Hold on, and this is where I got to educate you again, right? Lil Durk still rap.
Yeah, okay, I understand. People keep saying DJ Academics did the same thing and had a bigger platform at the time while he was doing it. Okay, so what? He's acknowledged that. What is that? If anything, that makes this argument even better. Why is how your criticisms suck? I'm not understanding. The pushback just seems to be like desperately trying to push back as much as possible. I don't understand. Why? Why? I don't get it.
Raps about a young kid, right, who lost his life in Chicago that had no resources like him, never made it out, nothing like that. A kid named Tuka literally uses him as a punchline to make his songs hot and to make himself seem more relative to his fan base, to make it seem like he's in Chicago. He's not in Chicago. He's not running the same blocks. And you know what people do when they hear that? Because I had to sit and listen to the mother of FBG, Doug Crowd, to me and say, why won't you show the other side of it? Because these guys are getting millions. These guys are running up millions off of a
okay, but it's their story though, right? Like, you understand, like, no matter how much you try to remove Lil Durk, no matter how much you try to remove Lil Durk, say he lives in Beverly Hills or whatever, those are his real experiences, real lived experiences that originally is what made Lil Durk Lil Durk. So ultimately, if everyone is exploiting a situation, if there's one party that is like the most adequate to exploit the situation, it's still always going to be someone like Lil Durk. So that's my take overall.
No, that's great. That's great. Listen. Hey, I love when you debate. And by the way,
I'm not a good debater. I don't like debating.
You're
I don't think
certainly not.
No. You had Andrew take down in the first four. It's all good. Here's the thing. Let me say this to you. Okay, great. I'm gonna go with what you say. Right. So, okay, he could say whatever he wants to say because that's his
prerogative. Yeah.
I'm not saying that.
Yes, you are, dude. This is stupid. This is why. That's why I don't like watching Hasan. It's so dumb and boring. Bro, the guy's just making a point about like less violence in the community through like social advocacy through rap music. He's just like, yeah, he shouldn't be doing this shit, being antagonistic. And you're like, well, it's his experience. He can do whatever he wants. Okay. Like, okay. So like, I just, you don't have an intelligent perspective here. You're just fucking, you're virtue signaling. You're letting us know that like you understand systemic racism. We get it. But like, holy fuck. This is fucking incredible. Oh my God. I got no fucking heels.
What are you saying?
I'm not denying the impact that Lil Durk's music might have on street level violence.
Yes, you're doing your best to minimize it by saying the system, there's greater systemic issues. And we understand that there are, but there's still on the ground changes people can make.
But you're not,
if there is one person
blame though. You're saying that he's allowed to speak on it, and I'm telling you, listen, it's one thing if you're
yes, it is his take. Explain his take then. You guys like that's his exact take. I guess you're just falling for his like unintelligent quibbling about how he's like presenting it, but that's his exact take. He's just consistently doubling down, saying it's okay for him to do this. It's his experience, blah, 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 blah. While Academics is trying to talk about how to reduce the violence in the community by not doing shit like this. And you guys are just coming all over Hasan. Like, I don't understand. Like, it's insane to me. It really is. It's embarrassing for you, and it's insane to me. Like, holy fuck.
Okay, you have nothing going on. You're just rapping about what's going on with you in your reality. Lil Durk has signed over $100 million in record deals, and his reality is not what these guys are actually talking about anymore. It's been a long time since then. So right now what he does, I'm telling you, because I've talked to the mom of the deceased of the people from the other side. He has a large enough voice that when he says something, it's fanning the fuse. That's what it is. So I always say, why does my name ever get brought up when, okay, you can say you may have been part of the problem at a point, but you stopped. You exited 2017. Then I asked everyone, what about these other people who are still encouraging? There's somebody.
Yeah, but you were never from there. That's the difference. I think that's like if we're gonna talk about you versus Lil Durk.
Okay.
Covering this sort of stuff, like he's making art. He is telling his story versus you're just covering it. If I think that like there is moral culpability there, I would still put you in a worse position overall than someone who is just basically rapping about their own personal experiences while making art. But obviously still nowhere near as bad as like record labels who also prod and poke and make the situation worse overall, especially because dead or alive, they're still going to profit.
Wait, but I've watched your extensive commentary about what's going on in Ukraine and other places. You're not from there. Why do you?
Yeah, you're certainly not, Hasan. That's why when Ukraine was brought up, you said that Russia had a right to it because there's Russians in that area of Ukraine, even though Russia, of course, systematically starved people, Ukrainians out so that they would die so that they could put Russians in there, right? So it's a good point. It's a good point. All right, it's an excellent point about how I'm going to die.
So because you're using a very amateur tactics of like what the actual rappers say, because they're usually saying, well, this is like, hey,
because I'm a commentator and so are you, right?
Yeah.
When I'm talking about,
do you comment on other things going on in other countries or other? Where are you from, by the way?
I'm from Turkey. I grew up in Turkey.
Okay. Do you comment on things going on outside of?
Yeah, of course. And I live in America now, and I don't exclusively talk about what's going on in America. I talk about larger narratives. I'm not from Chicago. I've never been to Chicago. I talk about white supremacy. I'm a white person. I'm not a black person, obviously. And yes, I do talk about things that are happening. But my coverage oftentimes is not going to incite further anger. Usually,
Bro,
I try to avoid that. So
that's bullshit. You rage bait constantly.
That's precisely what I'm saying here. But again, like let's say someone, I guess I can't even make a comparison with respect to like Ukraine, right? But one thing I always get mad at, and this is a constant, right? People, I call them Naperville kids. Okay, there's a lot of white kids in Naperville that will run around saying you ain't slide for Vaughn, you ain't slide for Vaughn, and it's like, bro, you live in a fucking McMansion that your mom and dad got, okay, and you are so careless in the way that you are celebrating Black Death, specifically as though it's just for you to consume, it's just content for you to consume. When we're talking about fucking real people dying, okay, and that is consistent with.
All right, hold on, let me read this take. So someone said Akademiks says these things, but still covers the same people he disavows. He only has this take as a defense to people that shit on him over the war in Chirac. He also contributes the same behavior. Okay, I guess I get what you're saying. I still don't see how that makes him wrong. Are you saying that like he defends people who do engage in the similar behavior that he likes? Is that what you're saying?
That's my analysis here.
Do you think that that's a byproduct of like my coverage, or do you think it's a byproduct of probably the larger scope of everywhere?
No, it's a much larger. No, it's much larger than your coverage. It's.
I did the war shark for 3 years. I never said when is so and so going to slide for so and so.
No, I'm not. You're missing my point.
Lil Durk said we gonna slide for your man's. Yo, if I ever die, make sure you slide for me.
I'm not saying you're doing that. I'm stating. I don't think you. I don't know why you don't hear me when I say this. This is not about my analysis of your content. If you want to have a conversation with like moral culpability in comparison to you versus Lil Durk, then that's a different conversation. But if we're going to talk about like the larger systemic problems, then of course you are nowhere near as relevant in the field of battle or in the way that people live every day.
Okay.
And their everyday experiences in comparison to like even what record labels are doing. The "you ain't slide for Vaughn" shit that a random white kid from Naperville says is just a further extension of the way that I think record labels profit off of black violence. And black bodies in
yeah, they're both right. That's the thing. That's the weird thing is that DJ Akademiks is acknowledging everything Hasan is saying, right? They both acknowledge that the systemic racism plays a huge impact. They're both acknowledging that this guy's music has a negative impact. The difference here is Hasan saying, well, technically he could do whatever he wants. It's his experience. And this other guy, Akademiks, is saying he shouldn't be doing that because it's just exacerbating tensions, especially in an area that he doesn't live in anymore. And Hasan just can't be like, yeah, you're right about that. He needs to disagree vehemently for absolutely no fucking reason. I don't understand. I don't get the issue.
In the streets, I think that it's not good. And there are way larger people. There are way larger faulty actors here than you or Adam 22 or if you're going to talk about people that are sharing their own personal experiences, like the rappers themselves.
Okay, so we're back again to a point of agreement. So I agree with you there. I agree with you wholehearted. I guess where my commentary about, I was like, well, I don't think he's touching deep enough, was that, let's be very clear. And I do like Andrew Callahan. He hit me up. He's a very cordial guy. He's a very nice guy. He flew out to New Jersey and I granted him an interview. I had this conversation with even Adam, and Adam was like, well, he said he was blindsided. I said, well, you have to kind of realize what this is. And this is where I was saying to you, right? Because I think that documentary was a really good documentary in the sense of it's going to get you to believe what you need to believe. If you watch that documentary,
hey, thank you so much.
Zero of the accountability would be on the people in these situations. You're going to walk.
I haven't watched a documentary. I should probably watch it after this. Right.
Away from to say, damn, it's fucked up. They're in these situations, and it's fucked up. Other people are taking advantage of these situations. You don't actually realize and understand the actual, people who are within these environments and just the crime in general. That if you're gonna do a documentary about Chicago, why we have to the first place I would start. This is where I believe that Andrew Callahan, he was wrong. Like, you can't just show a concert, interview a rapper who never had a hit, no disrespect to him, and then just jump to me and No Jumper. The first thing we gotta understand is why a dude could get caught with like literally a pistol with a fucking switch or a pistol with a 100-round clip on it, and he gets let out tomorrow. Why is Chicago, and actually Illinois in reality, the place where guns supposedly are policed, one of the highest in terms of the highest degree in people compared to New York? However, it's the place where the most guns are smuggled in. So again, most of
they're smuggling it from neighbor states, obviously, because America is not Chicago's not an island on its own, away from everybody else. They're taking them for Indiana.
Okay.
No, I'm agreeing with you, but what I'm trying to say is that if you're gonna do a documentary on the crime that's happening there, that has basically led into the music, and then the music has led into a culture phenomenon, something that you have popular rappers spurting off from, and media platforms like Akademiks or Adam 22 and No Jumper, you have to start where it really matters. When anyone watched that, and that's what I thought your opinion was shallow, because and I wouldn't say shallow just because you're a shallow-minded person. I think it led you to that opinion.
I mentioned everything that I just talked to you about in that conversation as well when I was live reacting to it, with respect to material conditions playing a significantly larger role in the way that violence happens in certain communities and not others in an identical capacity. So that's why I'm saying, you said that my opinion was shallow, but I think you're hyper focusing on my criticism of you in that video and not necessarily the larger, far more consequential, far more impactful factors at play that I routinely mentioned in that video as well, which is, again, material conditions and the cycle of violence and poverty. Poverty bred violence.
And that could be true. I will just say, and this was my take, right? So again, I feel like we're agreeing again. My take, when I hear your commentary, and your commentary seems to be more focused on the media platforms that was involved in pushing the music and yes, perpetuating some of the narratives. It may seem like you're absolving other more important structures when, if say you talked about it for 10 minutes, I watched the whole clip, I'm playing basketball and I'm listening to you. I listen to you a lot, brother. And I was just like, you kind of skimmed over like all the real societal problems that's going into this. And you're like, yo, not gonna lie. I think you even referred to like, yo, these guys are doing they're like pieces of shit for it. You know what I mean? And I could be wrong about that. I could be wrong about the exact term, but you made it seem like we were the biggest culprits of, maybe not, again, causing all this stuff, but taking advantage of it. And in reality, I've always said, and I'm not going to use this point against you because you just brought it up in your defense. Me and Adam even talked about this. Again, the biggest, the people who actually benefit most from drill music, from all these deaths, from everything you might consider when it comes to neighborhoods like Chicago or all the neighborhoods in Chicago, cities like Chicago, is going to be number one, the record label owners, the executives, the record labels themselves. Then you're going to trickle down and you're going to get to even the rapper. You're going to get to other like conglomerates before you get to the media.
No, I don't think so. That's the main difference. Again, I guess them, because I don't think that individual actors and the way that they rap about their own personal experiences is as morally damaging as like other people that are inciting as well. He's inciting.
Sure. Okay, I'm getting more and more of this because this is both. No offense, but both of them are doing a kind of a dog shit job of like accurately portraying what exactly they're thinking or trying to talk about. Probably okay. All Akademiks is saying is that some of the rappers have a responsibility in some of the propagation of violence, and that especially a rich rapper that already has a ton of money has more of a responsibility because he makes enough money where he doesn't have to continuously exacerbate gang tensions. It's fine. That's good. Yeah, it makes sense. That's This conversation doesn't even need to exist. Doesn't even need to exist. Bro, I don't know why our team is just not... I hit the wrong fucking button, so that's my bad. Yeah, probably gonna lose this. Whatever.
Exciting too. If you're look, I don't listen. I don't know the songs you're referencing right now. Like I said, I'm not super familiar with the culture.
I'll extrapolate just.
What's up?
I'll extrapolate for you. So we'll get out of Chicago. So I don't know if you know what's going on in Atlanta. You have the DA who's arresting actual rappers who are not only allegedly committing crimes, but they're rapping about them brazenly and also profiting off them. They're making millions of dollars.
Yeah,
granted,
which should be protected under the First Amendment, by the way. I think that if you're going to put together a RICO case, you can't be using gang signs that people are throwing up as a compounding factor or as a reason alone. Like, obviously, there's more evidence. Like, number one, don't fucking rent a car with your name on it. Unfortunately, don't rent a car with your name on it if that car is going to be used in a drive-by shooting. Okay, but the DA herself, what's up?
Some of the lyrics they're using a lyric from a rapper named Young Thug. He rapped about, yo, well, you got
I know. You don't have to say a rapper named Young Thug, bro. I know.
He rapped about shooting somebody's mama's house up. Guess whose mama's house was shot up? His biggest opposition, and that's an actual. You think that's just free speech? So he could rap about, especially if they have tangible proof, that he's linked to the person who shot up the person's house.
I think the crime itself.
He's rapping about it brazenly. By the way, here's the thing too, which I gotta commend to the Queen. I don't know if you know her. You know the Queen? No, not the Queen behind you. That's dead. Her name is Fonnie Willis. You gotta show some love, brother. Fonnie Willis, she's a queen.
Wait, I need to.
This is exactly what she said. If you're rapping about things that we already have evidence to that matches it, it's going to be an indictment. Like, where do you stop with freedom of speech? So can I get on the record, right? So
wait, is Hasan trying to say that the police shouldn't be able to potentially like arrest somebody for rapping about doing a crime? I don't. Why should that be protected under freedom of? I don't understand. Why? What about the person who had the crime committed onto them? I don't understand. What's the take is bizarre.
If I did, I don't know,
bad games today.
Crime, and I literally get on the record and say exactly what I did, just because it's over 808 and it matches exact evidence. Keep in mind, none of these things matter until it matches exact evidence. Anything is one thing to be used in an indictment. It's another thing to wholly be used in a court of law to use to prosecute you. When everybody keeps saying, oh, they're using evidence to charge these guys, there's no actual count on the indictment that said a lyric. These are supporting facts for the counts. They're charged with gang violence. How do you know these people are in a gang? Well, he has a gang tattoo. I know you might want to say that's just art. That might be spray paint, graffiti. I'm sorry, brother.
Well, I mean, it's more than that. Like, if I went and got a gang tattoo, that gang would kill me because I'm not part of their gang, right? Like, that would be... So, yeah, it's not just art.
If 20 y'all niggas got but I don't know if you can say nigga on your stream, so my bad.
You can say it.
Can I say it, Hasan?
With a gang,
like I said, cracker. What's up, cracker? As long as it's with the A, though, because I think it's disrespectful, even as a white person, to say it with an R. You know what I mean? Like, that's obviously not okay, you know? Am I just playing like shit today, or like... Am I just getting bad luck? I don't know.
Tattoo, and this is something that's very known. Or if you're rapping about certain stuff that's just actual crimes, freedom of speech just stops somewhere. And I know you believe that. You don't think that people could just snitch. Yo, it's not even freedom of speech. It's called self-snitch.
Well, yeah, of course, Hasan believes that freedom of speech has been limited. He literally said that it's okay for a black man to say the N-word, but not a white man, which I agree with. Which means that you support the freedom of speech, but not freedom of consequences ideology. So, okay, yeah.
Yeah, it is.
You know your taxes, right?
It is called self-snitching.
Made a song saying,
no, it is called self-snitching. But here's the thing. I get that.
So here's like an issue too. Like, let's say you can't use. Let's say a rapper does a crime and then they brag about that crime, right? But then the police go, we can't use that as evidence in some capacity. Okay, that's just going to cause the behavior of enacting a crime and then rapping about it because it's cool now. It's part of music. It's part of your content. It's part of the career you can advocate for. You obviously, if you can reduce the amount of bragging associated with like engaging in some, I'm not saying all the violence will go away, but if you can make it so that people can't brag about it or else they can go to jail, you'll see less bragging and you might actually see a little bit less crime. It's obviously much more complicated than that, but like, you know, you can't change everything in a step. Like it's good to advocate against some of these bad things, right? Like it's you know. I just don't understand the take here. Because everything is more complicated. Everything's like, oh, a systemic level. There's a systemic level. Like, I understand that. Oh, dude, I have the no fucking follow-up. Holy fuck. I mean, like, we're having social conversations about that stuff, though, right? Like, okay, so let me use, so Hasan's fundamental argument is that there's a greater system at play, so these individual actors in the system shouldn't be held responsible in any capacity, right? We're having a conversation like that on the social sphere, and I guarantee you Hasan would agree with this, right? There are a lot of states, we'll say in the United States, where it's legal to have sex with a 16 or a 17-year-old. Now, we obviously all think that that's bad, and it should not be behavior people should be engaging in, right? My general advocation is I think that's fucked up. I think that person should, like, obviously be made to be more educated about the topic. Unfortunately, like, yeah, they grow up in that particular area, but, like, there still needs to be some kind of, like, social conversation and, like, social, like, hey, that's a bad thing you did, even though the circumstance itself is the bigger problem, right? But we have to criticize the individual who engages in the problem, too. Right? It's just that you would be proportionate in that criticism. So this is like the relative thing. The age of consent is like the same thing as like the systemic racism. You obviously have to change. We have to attack like actual age of consent and change the age of consent, just like we have to attack like the fucking system itself. But then like the behaviors that come from that systemic racism still aren't good and need to be advocated against. We're just kind of like continuously justifying what the people are doing when the academics is just saying you shouldn't be doing that.
But when you are establishing a case, I think the supporting factors, the supporting evidence is infinitely more important than just using rap lyrics. Now,
well, yeah, you already said that.
By the way, you said Fannie Willis is the queen.
Oh, I'm
a little bit more critical. I think that like this move to lock up Young Thug, Gunna, and other YSL affiliated rappers, I think that was for publicity. Have they committed crimes? Allegedly, it seems like they have. Okay.
No.
It's fine that if Akademiks has contradictory behavior, I understand what you're saying. It doesn't invalidate what he's saying, though. If that's a criticism which I'm not aware of, it could be possibly true. That's fine. Doesn't mean that what he's saying is wrong.
Because again, I like to extrapolate.
It just makes him a hypocrite.
Because I'd never want to just talk only culture that people be like, oh, we're talking about something he doesn't know. You know the criminal justice system, my guy.
He called Lil Wayne's daughter a bitch. Yes, he's an asshole. Yeah.
You maybe not particularly in Fulton County, Georgia, but let's be honest. Bonnie Willis isn't listening to an album and be like, yo, indictment, you know this is
no. I understand, but they're using, but it's a dangerous precedent to set when you're using rap lyrics specifically to tie in other people in a RICO charge, right? Because if you're looking at racketeering and you're saying this is now considered organized crime, if you're saying like YSL is now considered organized crime, is an organized criminal component, I think that does set a dangerous precedent because of the way that rap music is usually just a reflection of people's realities about what they're talking about. All right,
nobody's saying that this music is the sole cause of gang violence, or nobody's saying that the music that's coming out is like the sole reason for all bad things to ever exist. What's simply being said is that glorifying gang violence is bad. It makes a lot of sense. It's just a factor to a lot of other parts, but that's all that's being said. And you're having a very hyperbolic argument about how, like, no, there's bigger, like, you're saying, like, well, there was violence before gang music. Sure. Okay. Doesn't mean that it's a good thing to glorify this type of shit. I don't understand.
All of a sudden, you throw up a gang sign, or all of a sudden you're saying, like, you're from a particular gang. You might not have actually done anything wrong, but you're just simply saying you're in a gang. But now, if you've rapped about it, you are literally you're literally culpable. Like, and I think that is an unfair way to over prosecute black people when there is already.
Yeah, no, Hasan's trying to say music. I think music should be able to be used in court in some context. I don't really care about the specific argument, but if you're gonna rap about a bad thing happening and then a bad thing happens, like, why wouldn't somebody investigate you? You know what I mean?
The problem with white supremacy within the criminal justice system. This does not absolve Young Thug and his criminal actions originally, or his continued potential involvement in criminal actions. But I think Gunna is a great example, I would say. I mean, you're locking people up for things that they may have done in the past, and your association in that overarching case is specifically that they were part of the record label, that they were, throwing up signs. Like, I think that's a silly way to do it. Free Gunna is what I'm saying.
Hold on. Well, first of all, you see, I hate to argue on the opposite side of this, but I'm just arguing on the point of facts.
I mean, you did call the DA a queen, so.
No, the DA. Hey, listen. If you understand, especially like, and you ask anybody who really live in Atlanta, crime over the last 5 to 7 years has gotten out of control. It's. I don't want to say there's some loose correlation with rap there.
Oh, come on. Yeah. Now that Young Thug is in jail, I'm sure that crime has been solved. Like, come on, that has nothing to do with that. It's poverty. Poverty is what causing people to fucking rob other people.
Sure.
Anybody who lives in Atlanta, if they will actually be honest, right? They don't have to just admit it publicly. Admit it to themselves. The problem in Atlanta is
I mean, I don't think that like music glorifying the bad actions is helping. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying.
bunch of rappers who call themselves gangsta has got mad money, mad resources.
Listen. I mean, people understand something. Music is very impactful. Okay, like when I'm like think about this. I'm driving in my car, right? On the way home, took a long drive to go get something to eat, maybe at my favorite restaurant, and then all of a sudden, what comes on the radio? It's 1:15. I'm a little drunk and I need you now. I start crying. I start thinking about the past. Start thinking about all these things. Because it's impactful. It's powerful, dude. Music is powerful. Don't kill me, motherfucker. Right? I can't help but bop out to it. You know what I mean? I can't help it. All right? Same thing with rap music. This doesn't make you cry. Okay? It's a little different. Yo, Soldier's actually like fucking broken and easy. What the fuck?
The law.
Okay.
That's the fact. Crime over the years have gotten worse because these guys think they're operating without impunity.
Wait, you
And
think the crime rate in Atlanta has something to do with rappers individually?
He's specifically saying that like the brazenness that people are operating in when it comes to rap music and bragging about like committing crimes is a factor in why crimes are still being committed, because there's not enough if you can be so brazen about it, if you can so boldly do all this bad shit, that's all he's saying. If I fucking die with bro, you gotta be fucking kidding me. It's fair. Okay. It's obviously not everything, but
acting with impunity, I don't agree with that. I think like when we talk about crime, it's such a larger problem. It's such a larger problem than like individual rappers.
It's the only problem. But trust me, them niggas in Atlanta, they're thinking there is no repercussion for how they're moving.
Fair. What are you saying?
You know why this RICO was dropped? They're shooting cops. Every black person or any criminal or anybody who does anything will know, you start shooting cops, they're coming after you. These dudes are getting so emboldened, they're shooting police officers. Of course RICOs are going to come down. If they were only killing people in their inner cities, we've seen. Look at Chicago.
They popped YSL affiliates for not shooting at cops, but for shooting, other members of their community, like ops.
Cleveland Avenue is one of the worst parts of Atlanta. Bro,
am I wrong? Wait, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you know more. Wait, did they actually catch anyone that was a YSL affiliate for shooting at cops, or was it just the other rival rappers and gang members?
That's why the RICO came down. I could Google it now for you. Hold on, I want to make sure I get the cop name right. They injured a cop, right? So if anyone doesn't know, first of all, this DA also is trying to get Trump for election fraud shit. Okay,
yeah,
so
I agree with that. That's good. She should focus on that more.
So she's not just trying to, like, by the way, she's black. She's not just trying to just get niggas.
I know.
She thinks she's staying on a moral high horse. And by the way, I think she's trying to do the Kamala Harris move. She's trying to use this position to get to another position, hopefully to get to politics. Here's the problem that happened. There was a guy whose name is Nut. Okay, he got killed, and before this DA got in the position she got in, she swore to the family, "I'm gonna solve that murder." That murder is the quintessential core of this whole YSL indictment. By the way, there's another gang indicted called YFN. Both of their beefs is centered about this one individual that she promised that, "Mom, I'm going to solve that murder." Okay, let's put that to the side. She locked up one group, right, which was the group of that allegedly was cool with the people that she was gonna solve the murder for. But whatever. Then a cop gets shot. He didn't die. And you will see they realize the guy who allegedly did the shooting is part of this quote-unquote YSL and been shooting bad people. So you know what they did? And she did a bold move because people weren't using these gang charges. Because this is how they file RICOs in state level in Georgia. They do the gang charge with a racketeering thing. Nobody was doing it until she says enough is fucking enough. Everybody.
If someone hears a song about violence and takes it a wink, wink, nudge, nudge to actually do it in real life, that person has some serious issue for it. Listen, I understand what you're saying. Sure. I think that it might be a little bit more than just that. And again, I think it's the act of committing a crime and then rapping about it and bragging about it and then having like a culture that's like, oh yeah, we did this. And like it gets a little bit deeper than you're trying to say. I'm not saying rap music is bad. I'm saying that some very violent music could be bad. If I'm listening to songs about how I'm going to fucking kill fucking black people, do you think that that's maybe not good? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm just saying maybe that music is maybe not having the best influence. If I'm listening to music, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm just saying, bro, it doesn't sound like a good thing. I could see why maybe it could have a negative impact on the community. I'm not in the community, so it doesn't really have an impact on me. But like, I wouldn't fucking criticize somebody for calling it out in their own community. It makes sense to me. So
everybody was getting on Atlanta. Atlanta was never, the crime rate has
Yeah,
tripled.
and again, we already know that there's underlying issues before the song. Absolutely. Doesn't mean that there isn't something to criticize here.
Over the last couple of years, and she said, I'm dropping these indictments, and trust me, these rappers are outside giving out water, going to church, getting baptized. They're like, you know what I mean? They're giving their life to God. They want no more smoke, and you got it thanks to the Queen Fonnie Willis. Sorry. Hey, listen, I know you want to like defend these communities, but trust me, it would be someone like me or a family member of mine that would live in these communities. We're not jacking the dudes who's just shooting up indiscriminately. Once you start shooting a cop, there is no type. Once you're shooting cops, you don't care nothing about the community.
Okay, first of all, some might say that cops are the most violent gang in the way that they deal with these sorts of communities, but that's not the point here. Obviously,
well, thank you for woke bombing us, Hasan. I know that there are issues with cops, but I imagine that if you remove the cops from these very violent areas, things would probably get worse. So.
Obviously, they're a part of that. Obviously, they're still very much a part of that system, so that they will get additional protection and a lack of scrutiny when they engage in violent behavior, specifically towards black communities. But like I've mentioned time and time again, and I don't know enough about Atlanta in particular, but I will say that I doubt that the individual actions of rappers themselves is responsible for the Atlanta crime rate, especially because like.
That's not what he's saying.
That you guys could Google at a later.
That's what I'm talking about. This is like an inaccurate. He's being dishonest about. That's not what this guy's saying. He's just saying it doesn't help. And when people can rap about it, it makes them feel like more like brazen about doing it, and makes it so that they might do it more. Like when you're publicly announcing you committed a crime and nobody does anything about you, you're more likely to continuously commit the crime. Why is he being so like dishonest about the interpretation of this take? It's fucking ridiculous.
The police officer's name is David Rogers. Okay. He was shot 4 times in October.
He was shot 6 times while trying to arrest a young Slime Life gang member, according to the warrants. That's what you're looking at, right?
Yeah.
That's what you're talking about. Yeah, you're talking about one individual act of violence against the cop, and I'm saying that yes, the system comes down to protect its most violent offenders, usually that being cops. So I get why there would be additional consequences. I mean, look, you have Chris Dorner. Are you familiar with Chris Dorner?
Of course I am.
Yeah.
Are you anti-cops? It's not like you're anti-cops.
What?
It's not like you don't fuck with cops.
I am not a big fan of the police. No.
Listen.
So why do you live in like a really rich community that have a very robust police force? I don't understand. I mean, like, listen, cops need to be changed, but like it's the fucking pretend. It's like the pretend anti-cop take here from me. For me, like some cops do some shitty things, but like, oh, I don't like cops, bro. I don't know, man. Like, cops can suck, and there definitely needs to be systemic change. But, I mean, I'm pretty sure even in a lot of these areas, the favorability of police isn't like, it's not great, but it's not as low as you would expect. Like, people who aren't committing crimes, they are like, yeah, we like cops because we need somebody to try to stop the crimes. You know what I mean? Like, it's not as, there needs to be reform, but I mean, we've gone from reform to like just fucking pure mental breakdown here. So, but okay. I mean, it's just such a performative take, I feel like.
I operate in hip-hop that usually say fuck 12, but trust me, everybody knows once you start shooting police officers, the shit is over.
No, I understand that. I mean, that's why I mentioned the Dorner example, right? They fucking lit him on fire in a cabin because he killed cops.
No, I know. And
even though he was a cop originally.
Ooh, that guy got nay-nayed.
So no, I get that. My point is that you mentioned the overarching crime rate rising in Atlanta.
It's fair.
Originally, in
it's okay to broadly hate like police as long as it doesn't turn violent. That's fair. Sure.
Your conversation, and you said that individual rappers that feel like they can operate with impunity, operate above the law, are responsible for that increase in crime. And I'm saying that is so hyper specific and so narrow.
And that's just saying it's a factor, and you're like being dishonest about it so that you can like seem like you know what you're fucking talking about. Oh my god, this Junkrat's in my cock and balls.
It's not how statistics work. So immediately I'm saying no. I don't think that is.
There's data that supports it. Like, for example, the reason why this RICO came down, they found out the guy who shot the cop. This guy has like 7 to 8 other shootings. He's accused of like 3 to 4 murders. They're realizing like, yo, hey, listen, these guys are tied in with some of these artists or people with money that are allowing and affording them the opportunity to beat the legal system. So that's why they're hitting them with the RICO. That's honestly what it is. Like, this is not no happenstance. Like, they're realizing these guys, by the way, they're also realizing, put like this, you could track the violence based on who's beefing with what rapper. So, okay, great.
Okay, but like even before drill music or even before rap, before YSL, was there no crime in Atlanta? Was there no violent crime in Atlanta?
I'm
Were no
against-
cops ever killed in
Nobody's
Atlanta
saying.
or
Nobody said
Chicago or
that.
any of these other places? Of course there was, right?
No. That's why Chicago is different. They don't really jump down like that with Chicago because it's always been like that with Chicago. Atlanta has been, and again, I'm speaking very like, I almost feel like I'm using colloquials to kind of explain the experience there.
No, but,
It's like, yo,
can you answer
everybody
that
who-
though? Can you
who's-
answer that though before we move on to the next question? Like, do you think crime, especially this kind of violent crime, did not exist in a place like Atlanta before? I don't know, like the popularization of like Atlanta rap.
He never said that. He just said it's a bad factor, and like it's showing. If anything, the fact that you can rap about committing a crime and get away with it, that's a symptom of a greater problem of, you could argue, police not giving a singular fuck about violence in black communities. So, like, the better conversation to have is like the fact that this behavior is being allowed and enabled. Like, that's the problem. It doesn't mean that this behavior is creating the problem. The behavior is the symptom of the problem. Why aren't we thinking it like that? I just don't understand. I'm not doing a Roadhog cosplay. I'm going to do a May
If we say
cosplay.
Atlanta, no. I'm telling you, look at the crime rate of Atlanta. I'm telling you, we could Google it right now together.
Wait,
Look
am
at
I
the crime-
crazy? I feel like Atlanta crime in Atlanta, Georgia, has decreased since 2009. But maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. But that would be consistent with the rest of the country. For the record, this is a media narrative where people constantly talk about like crime being a crime wave, and this is something I talk about quite frequently. I've done a bunch of videos on this, specifically in Los Angeles. I've talked about this. Homicides have increased, certainly in Los Angeles, for example, and
That
yet
sounds
property
bad.
crime has fairly consistently diminished. And this is like not number.
So Hasan's take is that crime's actually been going down in that area, so that's a good thing, and you can't even say that it's been going up, which is why, you know, the rap music doesn't have an impact. But then you just said property crime went down. Crime against things went down, but crime against people living went up. So that's very alarming to me. That's not. It's just, that's really bad. If anything, like, why is that happening? Is that gang related? That's bad. How are you going to take that as a fat W? That's a fat L. What do you, more people are dying, but thank God that less the houses are getting broken into? Is that the claim? Like, what the fuck is this? Okay. All right. What could cops do to stop gang violence? Free money, baby. Free money, baby.
Numbers that people are making up.
Free
This
money.
is the cops.
Woo!
You know, this is their own numbers. And
So I feel like you have a distrust for police officers already, which I think we all do. But here's the thing, and this is just undoubtedly, gang-related violence in Atlanta.
okay, so not overall crime. You're talking about gang-related violence.
Yeah, that was pretty explicit. Oh, what is my place?
I mean, well, again, obviously, there's gonna be
Bronze
more
four.
focus, at least within the black community, on
Fucking owned.
communities where African Americans are, right? So that's usually places where gang violence is more prone to happen. But I know without a doubt, gang violence has increased. And from what I know, overall violence has increased, at least since this DA has taken office. Now, you're going back to 2009. Like, again, I don't know what happened since 2009. So if we
No,
just
but
take
that's not
this-
an individual year. That's a consistent drop, as you can see, right? If you're looking at my stream, you can see that that's a consistent drop all the way to 2018, a minor increase, and then a restabilizing.
I can't believe we're going this far in on a conversation where a guy's just like, yeah, I don't think that you should be rapping about killing people. And we're like, well, yes, you, like, I just don't understand it.
But hear what I'm saying, Hassan. Like, for example, right
Figure it
now,
out.
the place that everybody's trying to, like, we
Do I
hear
look
rappers
cool?
speaking about this.
I mean, I look like I'm
Philadelphia.
my
Meek
Tyler.
Mill, who's a guy who's promoted death and violence and drugs more than anybody else in Philadelphia. He's even said we have to chill out, we have to stop. There's an irrational increase that is due to just like not only gang violence, but also some people believing that the music that they see is relevant and the artists that they see is relevant are also promoting this type of music.
But
I
like,
understand you want to just extrapolate it to be like, oh, that's just a natural trend.
Somebody said in my chat, they're like, you should check out the new video from Abed Preach about DJ Academics, make you look at him in a whole new light. And the video looks like it's here, and it's about DJ Academics being, red pillars expose a fragile cornball. For sure. That doesn't really make him less right because he also is part of like the manosphere and he's a fragile pussy. He's literally DMCA'd videos of mine when I criticize him. Like, I understand this already. Right? I understand this already. First of all, you gotta chill with the you didn't send a donation, my brother in Christ. There's nothing for me to read. You are being a little weird though. Anyway, I think I might time you out because you're being a little suspicious. Oh, what was your donation? Because you're spamming 13% in my chat and saying read my donation after trying to figure out how to donate. I'm going to assume that you're probably trying to do like a 1350 meme. So I'm going to just ban you from the chat. So you're a fucking moron. You just said 13% 4 times and then said read my donation. So you probably tried to send through some other fucking racist. Why are you guys so dumb and annoying? Good job though. Good job spending your money on that. But yeah, just because he might be a fucking corny asshole because he's in the manosphere doesn't mean that he's wrong here. You know what I mean?
That cap you been doing on.
Whoa, that's not the right video. I started playing the other one on accident. Where did I put it?
Listen, if the people in these communities, and this is what I'm saying, you're looking for shallow.
No, but
shallow.
you said crime increased, but it has decreased, is what I'm saying, and I think that's important.
You said gang crime has increased, and you even admitted that homicides increased. So you're being
Atlanta.
Yeah.
In Philadelphia. What in
Yeah.
what areas? In what areas then? Because again, put like
Overall.
Overall, well, homicide's gone up. More death to people has gone up. Apparently, Hasan values property more than people, even though he's a socialist. And he's supposed to he says that he likes people more than property. But in this instance, he's literally like, dude, what? You're like, yeah, overall crime went down. Property crime went down. People crime went up. What's happening here?
that happened in America.
I'm gonna watch that video.
That we as Black Americans, we could tell when it's affecting our community.
You said I was talking about Andrew Tate and I rolled him, right? Remember? Because one of the main components in that conversation was his over reliance on anecdotes over empirical evidence.
Your empirical evidence proves you wrong here. Unfortunately, DJ Academics, it just isn't debate savvy enough to debunk what you're saying. That's it. You're just wrong, and like this is why you talk to people who aren't super duper educated in debate, because you would get fucking steamrolled, or even marginally. Because Academics is just here to chat, and you're like, oh, you know, overall crime went down actually, so you're actually wrong about that, even though you well homicides went up. Well, you're wrong. You're literally wrong. Hasan is like dumb and wrong here, and he's being fucking dishonest. He's debate lording. He's a debater. Anybody that wasn't debating be like, yeah, you know, you have a good point. When you debate, you hold on to your point till like just in general. You just hold on to your point regardless of whether you're right or wrong. Right? Hasan's debating. He's wrong here, and he's debating. He's smart enough to know this. He should be smart enough to understand that like people are dying more, so maybe there's a problem. You just won't acknowledge it.
Now we have a tendency to be biased in the way that we interpret things, right? And the media is very good at cutting a narrative. They're very good at cutting a narrative that like crime is on the rise, crime is exploding.
More people died, Hasan. Who gives a fuck about the property crime? Why do you all of a sudden care more about fucking property, or why do you equate property to people all of a sudden, even though you're always advocating against it? Like, you realize this goes against your own moral code that you fucking purport to have. It doesn't make sense. It's insane.
You pull yourself out of that for a brief moment, okay? And you think about something even as emotional as like violent crime. You know, I've had friends that have been robbed. You know, it's a very emotional, traumatic experience. I get it, but when you remove yourself,
but they have like their crypto coin around. Like, what are you talking about, bro? Like, you're fucking rich.
From that for a brief moment and think about it with respect to the empirical evidence, you recognize that the media narrative is actually not reflective of the reality itself.
No, I disagree with that, and I know you're trying to say it's anecdotal.
But that's the truth. No, I mean I'm showing you the numbers.
I'm using a specific verbiage. The conversation you had with Andrew Tate, he just wanted to say that niggas could drive more than women. Like, that's him. I'm telling you specifically. Like, I've seen everything. I'm telling you specifically that the reason why everybody is tuning in to what's going on in Philadelphia these days, the reason why Meek Mill in his heyday, right? We're talking about 2012 to 2015. This is probably the height of his career. He wasn't talking about, oh, there's some crazy murder rate in Philadelphia, because the precincts of where it was happening in. And that's the thing you know about a lot. It's not only about, are we just taking Philadelphia as a whole? Are we taking actual gang violence happening in a few
Well, if he caught it, he said that homicide went up. It sounds like gang violence is going up in that area.
particular cities? If you listen to the Queen, Fonnie Willis, she even said herself, I'll get you the clip if you want me to, where she said violence on Cleveland Ave has increased. What is Cleveland Ave known for? A particular gang. So I get what you're saying. Well, you're just trying to use Atlanta, but again, most of these influential things that we're talking about is coming from certain precincts.
Okay, that makes sense. So apparently, statistically, in areas where gangs exist, gang violence is going up. That sounds like a pretty solid argument. Well, let's just come on.
try to have a conversation about crime across the board, like you got to have a larger conversation about crime in these areas you're talking about, whether it be Philadelphia or not. If you reduce it down to one zip code, if you try to hyper focus on one street number, then you're not going to arrive at the larger.
They're talking about gang violence in the areas that gang violence happens. What are you talking about? It just feels desperate to not concede any point. It just sounds very dismissive of issues that are going on. I don't know. Well, this reads to me as like dismissing gang violence in general because he just doesn't want to have a talk about it. It's literally like the issue that I've seen some black people talk about where they hate the term people of color because it feels like it erases like black people's issues. Like, yeah, when the government focuses on helping people of color, all of a sudden, if every non-white person does better overall, then like they don't care about specific black issues, even if black issues haven't been doing better at all, right? Like that's a common complaint, which I understand, which is why we use BIPOC now, so we try not to like erase black issues or indigenous issues, another thing that we don't talk enough about, right? So like that's this. So it's like, yeah, there's issues going on, gang violence in these particular communities. Well, we don't really need to talk about all those. We can talk about the whole area, and the whole area is doing better overall, even though he's actually incorrect and he's being dishonest about that because they're not actually doing better when it comes to homicide, death of people, right? Destruction of property has gone down, right? Hasan he admitted this himself. So
clearer picture. Fannie Willis is not the DA of Cleveland Street. She's the DA of Atlanta.
She's focusing on the areas where crime.
No, I know, but here's the issue, right? Here's the issue. The reason why you don't do that.
Super chatted $1.99. Discord call.
I mean, they're in a Discord call. Are you asking me to be in a Discord call? Who are you? I don't know.
The reason why you don't look at like an individual street is because when you hyper focus, when you get down to that as your evidence, that is susceptible to a lot of bias takes and selection bias in the identical capacity to you being susceptible to your own anecdotes, like being motivated by your own personal biases that you can't recognize. Because when you sample an individual street, individual streets can be bloody for an extended period of time, and then the violence moves elsewhere, right? Like that's why you look at the violent crime rate in Atlanta rather than just specifically one area.
Listen, I have a limited understanding, and Hasan says he does too, even though he's talking about this like he knows. But my understanding is that usually gang disputes are over particular areas, usually to sell particular things, right? So why would it constantly shift? I don't think Hasan knows what the fuck he's talking about. I think he's just talking. Why is he so desperate to be right here? What's wrong with just being wrong about some of this shit? Okay.
Hasan
Hasan is just a debater.
By the way, I think we both went to Rutgers. I don't know if you know. We both went to Rutgers. I graduated with a biommathematics degree. Okay, I took theory, probability, all that shit. And I like how you're talking because it kind of harps on my background from that. Fuck that shit though. There's hoods in every city. That's the point I'm trying to tell you.
Yeah.
Yo, put it like this: the city I live in, I know where the.
Well, like, okay, so there's hoods in every city. So like, there's probably gangs in like California, for instance. But the reason why Hasan can stay in his area is because he's rich, and the gang will never go there. That's basically how other gangs work. Is that they're not going to migrate to other areas because a lot, especially the richer areas, they have a more robust police force to keep out like gang violence, right? So like, what do you, you know what I'm saying? So, I'll just make it like a little bit of a joke, but yeah, like it's not going to migrate that much. It's territorial beef. The fuck?
This is going to be at. If it's over here, it's a fucking problem. It's never violence. I know where the violence is going to be at. I have bro, I still live in Jersey. My headquarters is in Jersey City. My headquarters is in the art district. They have moved out all the ghetto shit blocks away. There's usually not crime where my headquarters is at. I know exactly where it's going to be. So I know you're like, oh no, the violence, you're acting like it's like Casper. Like, oh no, the ghost might pop up here, then there, then there, then there. We just got to look at it though. No, everybody know where the real, let me ask you a question. If I had to
smaller, hyper-specific, localized, selected slivers of crime are susceptible to be cherry-picked, though. That's my point. And that's why you look at the broader crime rate. You look at the crime rate across the board.
If you were the commissioner of police and you were in Chicago, right? Granted, every time when you have one of these meetings and your lieutenant or whoever is telling you, yo, this is what they're doing in South Side Chicago. Historically, where all the niggas is at, historically, the most violent part, are you going to be like, no, just spread out equally. I want a lot of y'all over by like Peoria. I need like you guys on the outskirts. Or are you going to say, if we got 1,500 cops put 1,000 cops in Southside Chicago because that's where they're giving it up.
Yeah,
brother, you're not racist.
By the way, you're quite literally describing why police operate as an occupying force in these sorts of communities.
Oh my God, he needs to let us know how fucking woke he is. Dude, all he's saying is like, yo, when there's more violence in a particular area, police respond by putting more police in that area. And that's been the general trend. Fair point. Well, you're actually describing over-policing. Oh my fucking God, dude. Come on. Like, I get it. There's over-policing sometimes, but sometimes there's areas where there's a lot of violence, and we just don't know how to solve the problem. Police are unfortunately in the unfortunate situation where they're meant to deal with drastic socioeconomic, systemic problems that they don't know dick about shit. Okay? In order to be a police officer, you have to get C's in high school. They're not exactly super equipped to understand the depths of fucking systemic racism and the negative impacts of fucking lack of access to funds, as well as like being fucking racially discriminated against systemically for the last however many hundreds of years. No shit. Nobody's like that. Sorry for shitting on cops there. But I mean, just seriously. So like, that's why things can get bad. But what is the expectation? Remove all the cops and then crime blows up drastically. And before some dumbass is like, no, well, when they have less police, there's actually less crime. No, there's just less police to catch the crime. You need a proportionate amount of police to the proportionate amount of crime in a particular area to stop it. Okay? So, Jesus fucking Christ. It's like I'm shitting and coming all over myself right now. This is fucking insane. This is literally just like, I'm smart and I want you to know. I know systemic racism. It's like, holy fuck, your whole identity is literally fucking Twitter. I mean, fuck. Thank God you're not in control of any type of system, because I don't think you'd have any level of help. This is fucking insane. It's fucking bonkers.
Because of that contentious relationship. Police are there to protect and serve. They should be in every neighborhood, and police are not supposed to be the ones solving crime, as they don't actually solve crime, for the record. They don't. They don't do a really good job of solving crime at all. So,
oh my God, it's like, I fucking hate these statistics. Yeah, sometimes police don't always solve crime, but their presence will reduce crime in most areas. I understand that. And a lot of times they're called after a crime is committed. So, of course, you can't solve a crime because it's like police are reactionary, right? So, like, usually they'll come afterwards. So, like, I understand the out-of-context statistic that meant to say the police are ineffective while you live in an area with a really robust police force, and you fucking come all over that. But, like, can we stop pretending that, like, you don't, like, desperately love police? That's why you live in a very high fucking tax area, so that you have a better police force? I mean, it's, like, just so dumb fucking hypocritical bullshit. It's so annoying. It's just so annoying.
Crime, if you and I both understand that crime is not manifesting as a consequence of, like, you know, black people living in a specific area, right? I don't think you meant that. And instead, a product of material conditions,
we
right?
already know this.
Then the solution to crime is not about over-policing black neighborhoods,
so
especially
annoying.
Considering that black neighborhoods have been over-policed. Chicago's a really good example.
Here we go. Hasan Smart.
Glad you brought up Chicago once again.
Here we go, baby.
So there was a plot of land in the south side of Chicago that was supposed to be sold. And the mayor at the time, Rahm Emanuel, wanted to turn around and turn this into a police academy. But what the community actually wanted was for that plot of land to be sold so that they could get more funding for their school system. CPS is incredibly underfunded.
Smart.
Time and time again, studies have shown that after-school programs and basketball leagues and things of that nature have led to an immediate and recognizable drop in crime, specifically in...
Okay. Sure, I agree. What does this have to do with anything? What does this have to do? Hasan literally admits that in this conversation that you need a police force. We're having a conversation about over-policing. But that doesn't mean that every instance of increased policing is over-policing. What's happening here? Like, we just went off to a whole tangent because this guy's just like, yeah, sometimes you need more cops in more dangerous areas. And Hasan's like, well, you know, sometimes the government focuses too much on cops. I agree, but that doesn't mean that that's what's happening right now. You're being fucking weird.
The neighborhoods that they implement these sorts of programs. So why the fuck do these rich white people still continue to avoid that reality and try to over-police black communities? That's not the way you actually solve crime. If you want to solve crime, I want to solve crime. I don't want crime, right? You don't want it either.
I actually love crime.
Do the right things, right? That's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to actually tackle the problem.
Be true though, Hasan. Come on, yo, Hasan. Like, yo, Hasan.
He's being super dishonest.
Yo, like, I know you're so intellectually, like, you know, advanced that you understand that. By the way, we're not even disagreeing. It's like you're trying to say, no, all you guys got to do is give them more resources and back out the cops. What? Yo, you back out the cops in Southside Chicago and you give them more resources? Yeah, it's gonna be more deaths. You can't believe that. Hey, listen, that might be long-term. No, that's a long-term perspective to say, hey, listen, Southside Chicago and back out the cops.
All right, so okay, I want to hear this again because I didn't really understand what he's saying. I think I do now.
It's like you're trying to say no. All you guys got to do is give them more resources and back out the cops. What? Yo, you back out the cops in Southside Chicago and you give them more resources? Yeah, it's gonna be more deaths.
Yeah, I agree with
Can't
that.
believe that's. Hey, listen,
Does
that
not.
might be
Well, I just don't agree. So what DJ Academics is saying is that if you remove cops from like this riddled area and you just give more resources, that there's going to be more deaths. He's 100% correct, right? When we talk about implementing better services and like better redistribution of funds, it's not like just an immediate thing. Like you would need to implement the fund. So here's the thing: most people go to like gang culture because they have like a lack of being able to make money elsewhere. So the first thing you need to do is provide the money, or to build like a better economic infrastructure so people can have jobs and don't have to go and operate in gang areas. Which makes sense. But if you just remove cops instantaneously, the problem's not going to fix itself. There's now a gang culture, unfortunately, because of a lack of access to resources. Like gang culture comes from a lack of access to resources. That's how it happens across every different community who's done it. Black people, Hispanic people, gross Italian people. Italian people. It doesn't matter what gang. It's always a lack of resources in some particular area, for sure. But now there's a culture that has been created around the lack of resources. And on top of that, you need to address like another issue. And some of these issues can be like a lack of like a father figure. And, all of a sudden, who are you going to go to? Lack of money, lack of father figure. You see some fucking rich gang member walking around giving out money to their community because they're not bad people. They're trying to give to their community. What do you want to do? You want to be like that person. This is like the cycle here. It's a lot more than just one thing. Okay? No, Papa, give the gang members school programs. They'll immediately put down their guns and go to basketball. Yeah, sure. You're fucking idiot. It's a lot more complicated. And like Hasan just doesn't get it because he doesn't care. There's lack of sense of community. That's another good one too. There's a lot here, and it's been happening for so long that it's not as simple as more resources, less gang. It's unfortunate. Like it needs to be more. Like I forget who it was, but it might have been Steve Harvey, but I don't remember. No. It was a black guy. Sorry, I don't remember who it was, but they were talking about how like part of the culture is like every young black man wants to be a basketball player, but there's only like 20 basketball spots like per year or something like that. And like, what about better access to like computer science, shit like that? Like there's a lot here. And Hasan wants to boil it down because he gets to virtue signal about it. But like the problems are real. Like when you remove like half of the police force and throw money at the problem and it doesn't work, it's not your community that's getting fucked. It's the fucking black people's community. So this is the problem with fucking white people, is that like, not for nothing, it's easy as a white dude to be like, yeah, we just need to do these things and everything would just solve itself. By the way, I as a white person, Hasan, know better than you as a black person, DJ Academics, even though you've obviously grown up more attached to these issues. And then when it doesn't work out because you didn't do it correctly, you don't have to care. Because you don't even live in the fucking community. That's the problem. That's the fucking problem. Okay?
I don't believe that.
No, that's
over-policing doesn't mean that there's a lot of police. It means too much police emphasis where there needs to be emphasis on other programs as well. That's what it is.
a long-term perspective to say, hey, listen, this is a real reason why crime is happening, which I agree. Usually anywhere where crime is happening is because they are underserved with resources and they don't have
I didn't say airdrop Dracos in a fucking O block and leave the cops. I meant like resources like school programs that I just mentioned, social safety nets.
Why would you take the police out? So listen,
Yeah,
in Chicago,
why not implement those safety nets first and then reduce police after the response has been a reduction of necessity of police? That's the argument. That's the whole argument. You can't just remove police magically and expect the problem to fucking disappear. It doesn't work like that.
to anybody who's on, like, you know, you gotta talk to like an extra like killer or street dude. They're gonna be like, yo, they feel they have to have a gun. Everybody's rolling around with illegal guns, and you're trying to say, let's bring the cops out of there. Just bring some more YMCA's and basketball courts, and they're gonna get along. What?
I
that is
ironically do believe that over policing, which has increased over the course of the past 50 fucking years.
Damn, she got fat.
And has, I mean, obviously the overarching crime rate has dropped regardless of wherever you go. But over policing has not been a solution. Over the course of the past 50 fucking years, and has, I mean, obviously the overarching
hold on.
around with illegal guns, and you're trying to say, let's bring the cops out of there, just bring some more YMCAs and basketball courts, and they're gonna get along. What?
I unironically do believe that over-policing, which has increased over the course of the past 50 fucking years, and has, I mean, obviously the overarching crime rate has dropped regardless of wherever you go.
Hasan, how can you say in the same sentence that over-policing is a problem while the crime rate has dropped? Explain that to me. How do those two things work well with each other? How are you gonna? Oh, we're dead. You lost your own argument. You just fucking literally lost your own argument. You just made it. You made a really good case. You just made a really good case for over-policing. It works, statistically. Now, if you weren't a dishonest douchebag before, you could be like, yes, overall crime has reduced because property crime has gone down, but homicides have gone up. So clearly the problem hasn't solved itself. But you can't do that because you're a fucking moron that was just shitting and coming about how you need to mix everything together. You just owned yourself. You just nay-nayed yourself. It's embarrassing for you. What are you doing? Now, I would say that, hey, increased police force, yeah, it works to reduce crime, but that doesn't necessarily mean an increased quality of life or provided a better alternative. And it's not a long-term solution. Whereas it would be a more efficient solution to implement some kind of implement some kind of like program to help people to get back on their feet and get like jobs, right? Like some kind of jobs program. I'm a UBI guy. That's a whole conversation to have. I'd say like that's a better long-term solution because it makes people happier and have a better access to different resources, right? But Hasan's just talking. What do you do? You this is insane. You shouldn't talk to people anymore. Like you really what are you doing? This is embarrassing for you. This is fucking embarrassing.
But over-policing has not been a solution to the crime in Chicago. So why not try something a little bit different? I'm not saying don't have a single cop in Chicago. What I'm saying is if you want to have cops in Chicago, I'm not a police abolitionist in the sense that I do understand that there is still going to be a group of individuals that are, whether democratically organized or not, maintaining the presence of law and order, okay, and catching pedophiles and shit, okay? Like, I think that you need that. You need and solve crimes. You need detectives. So
he's talking about how he's not a police abolitionist, but he thinks that there just needs to be an institution of people who do this. Why not just have the police do it? I don't understand. Why do you need to create a whole new fucking police force? Although he's going to say to like deconstruct some of the problems in the police force, like basically that it is its own little gang or something. So I understand that. I don't think it'll be as effective to just completely dismantle the police force and rebuild it. Probably better off just like trying to change the culture, which is going to take a long time. But okay, dude, come on. Why do you got to do this to me? Why do you got to fucking bomb me?
That's number one. What I'm stating is over-policing has demonstrably not worked. Social services have demonstrably worked universally, not just in Chicago, but in all of these other places. So instead of having a hyper-militarized group of individuals that are not even from the streets that they're patrolling, okay, have people from said community or have a police unit that is accountable to the community in some meaningful capacity, okay, while also simultaneously taking some of these resources and putting them back into social safety nets and school programs.
Yo, I'm going to shock you with a statement. And by the way, anybody in my chat don't agree. And listen, this is why I'm an independent thinker. Y'all can disagree. We can argue it from here on until the rest of the time. This is why the only person who had a real solution for Chicago that could have possibly worked is motherfucking Donald Trump. You got what?
I want to hear what he has to say.
Revenge killing, bro. Nobody cared about no social services and after-school basketball program when people talking about they smoking on their dead bro. This is revenge violence consistently perpetuating itself. There's nothing you could give other than hard policing of removing those individuals who are more prone to that from that environment, bro. They're not gonna just stop and like,
wait, what do you mean? Individuals are not prone, but like
stop killing each other. What?
Okay, but you don't think that like the people living in these neighborhoods are like inherently more violent, right?
No, it doesn't matter. So Hasan just has a lack of understanding of people, which I'm really not surprised with at all. So what Akademiks is saying is basically, fundamentally, everybody gets to a point of no return where there's very little you could do to reform them. People who are like committing gang violence every day, and it's their entire way of life to operate in these like situations, especially since, let's be honest, like gang violence like that, like, I mean, being a gang member is, to me, very clearly that's a traumatic experience, and that you have to adjust in order to thrive in that culture. Unfortunately, same thing with like drug addicts. What, you know, like, you're at a point where like you're almost just that, and it's very difficult for you to stop engaging in that behavior. Gangbangers are just not going to stop. Doesn't matter if they're black, white, anything, Italian, but sorry, I have a lot of Italian hate. So you need to have police there. The idea is offering services to people before they get conditioned by these bad situations. Like, but like a top tier fucking mob boss isn't going to be like, oh, I'm going to die. Isn't going to give it all up. Because now he has a little, you know, he's not going to just give it all up. It's like, this is the lack of understanding about this. It's not an instantaneous solution. We lost. No, we didn't.
Right? You don't think that? Why are they that way? Why does it manifest? Why does that violence manifest itself in the way that it does?
Because it's cyclical. Because it's of course the initial reason is because of the societal effect on their family lives or them as people in terms of lack of resources and shit like that. But once violence starts, right, you're usually seeing, like, for example, when Lil Durk, like, again, I'm using anecdotal shit to kind of like prove my point, but I have a bunch of them. When someone dies, you're gonna see a weekend of shooting. If someone gets hurt, it's a lot of revenge stuff. It's literally just warfare. You know what I mean? It's not necessarily saying it's. Obviously, again, I'm not disagreeing with you in the sense.
Okay, why do you think white people in Connecticut don't handle it that way? Do you think that there is an inherent reason for it, or do you think it's because?
What is he like, lecturing this guy on systemic racism? It just seems like so out of touch, bro. Okay, because
those guys in like middle class America have a significantly better material condition than the dudes you're talking about, who are living in literally like third world conditions in the wealthiest nation on earth.
Hold on, let me tell you this: if white dudes in Connecticut, if you give me about 30 of them, and all of their brothers or sisters was a victim of gun violence.
The reason is because they're not a victim of gang culture that was like created because of like a lack of access to funds, specifically because they were black, and then people having to create like pipelines in order to just like generate money. Like, that's what it comes down to. We all know this. It doesn't mean like you can't just remove the police and have any positive impact on a gang-ridden area. Like, it's just not the same thing. Like, you just don't know what the fuck you're on about. Like, people, once you're conditioned about a particular environment, a lot of times they'll stay that way. Same reason why, like, once people start, like, that's why it's very difficult to get drug addicts to stop doing drugs. But if you can take somebody that might be in a, how did you not die? If you could take somebody that might be, I'm dead. Let's say somebody was predisposed to, had like a predisposition to be a drug addict or an alcoholic, right? Which you could know because there are like genes like that. Let's say your whole family's alcoholic, right? It's easier to prevent the person, like the kid, like a kid that has never drank before. It's easier to get him to never drink. What? It's easier to get him to never drink than to try to get him to stop drinking after he started drinking. And that's basically where we're at. It's not like this one for one type of a fucking thing. Dude, you really need to fuck off.
Maybe half of them will be like, you know what, I'm going to seek therapy. I'm going to try to, move on from this. The other them, they're picking up a stick, bro. They're going to have some
you literally, you miss.
Especially with, like, a lot of gangs are very aggressive about, like, staying in a gang, bro. You can't really just leave a gang. That's my understanding. So imagine, like, they implemented these services, and then a bunch of gang members like, I don't want to do this anymore. I was like, okay, then you might get hurt, right? Like, I'm pretty sure that's a thing. It's not as easy to just be like, oh, let's walk away. It would just potentially make it, or it would hopefully make it so less people will be turned to crime. But it's not like an instantaneous solution.
Here's my point. My point is, if you're in a better position overall, if you are subjected to better material conditions overall, you're not going to find yourself in a cycle of violence anyway. So when I talk about it, I talk about literally fixing the material conditions because I want the underlying problem to go away.
Okay, but how do you stop the cycle of violence? Okay, so you build the best infrastructure.
I never said there should be no police whatsoever, by the way. I do understand that if someone commits a crime, yes, the police should go in there, stop it, make sure that the person is no longer committing crime. I understand that. There's like pretty basic stuff.
I don't know, like, I look at the comm stats when it comes to, like, places like Cook County and compared to other places. The amount of gun violence that police supposedly have to respond to or properly investigate, they have given up. Especially even after, remember what happened in Baltimore when people just...
Great, I'm glad we're giving them billions of fucking dollars, so they're just like, yeah, fuck it, like, we're giving up.
Hold on, okay, no, okay.
They need more money, I think.
No, I'm with you on that, but you're saying less police when we have also demonized the police for doing what they need to do to stop it.
They're not doing what they need to do to stop it. Like Derek Chauvin wasn't doing what he needed to do to stop George Floyd, right? You understand?
I don't think George Floyd was even in a gang, so I don't know why you're talking about George Floyd as if it has anything to do with gang violence, to be honest with you. It's just a virtue signal over a situation where a cop clearly fucked up and did a really bad thing and murdered somebody. He doesn't actually care, though, because, again, that's not like this wasn't like a gang-related thing. So, okay.
And that you agree with me on that, I hope.
Got to do shooting up the block or doing gang violence like how most of them niggas in Chicago is doing, bro.
But they're not doing that. Look, if you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail, and cops are a fucking hammer. They are dealt with a problem that they are incapable of solving.
No, I'll give you that point. We do need better cops, and I don't want to sit here and act like I'm saying every cop is perfect. My whole point is that, listen, I'm with you, and I think there's a lot of moments and points of agreement. Like, I'm saying, yo, you're right. Like, we do need the better infrastructure and all these other things to stop the cycle, because you're right. People in Connecticut, they're not doing that. But we also have to be very aggressive and very intentional in the approach to let people know that, hey, listen, violence can't beget more violence, because that is, that's what I realized.
I agree. That's why cops are a terrible fucking method of solving violence.
So how do you stop more violence when people are moving off?
But you just said violence doesn't beget more violence, and now you're saying cops are the only way to stop violence.
No.
You and I are in agreement. Cops are a violent force.
No, because Hasan, somebody kills your brother, you're picking up a gun. Maybe. Or you're more likely to. Especially if you have nothing to live for, or that's a way of life, you're probably going to do it. What I'm trying to say is that you have to stop the cycle even if you improve the conditions. Because put it like this, when these people are talking to me, they're saying this, like that group or that gang killed my cousin. I don't give a fuck what they did. Bro, it's the same thing with war. We watch war on oh my God.
Okay. I have a quick question for you, right? Let's say in your younger days, would you ever throw hands? Like if someone, try to fuck with you?
I would if it came.
Okay. You probably won't do that right now, would you?
Depend on.
And I'm not saying this to be like, oh, you're a pussy or anything. There's a larger point here.
It depends on what level, but also if I could avoid it, of course I would not, because I have a lot more things going on.
Exactly. That's my point. You have way too much to fucking lose for getting into a dumbass scuffle. And if people have more to lose, then they're less likely to act in violent ways. But if you have no fucking future prospects, if your school system is completely fundamentally broken, the teachers don't want to fucking be there, you're still working on like textbooks that are from 1957, okay? And you see so much violence happening as a consequence in every fucking facet of your life, and you're like, what the fuck am I supposed to do? Of course I'm going to pick up a gun and go and do whatever the fuck I can to survive. Okay, like that's the point. And if you're born into that environment, it is very difficult to get out of it. And the only way to actually get out of it is to make sure that you have something to lose, to make sure that you have a future prospect, to make sure that these kids are being educated, to make sure that they have shit to fucking do.
Here's the biggest thing, though. You see, education won't do it. The majority of these people, and this is why the feds, which they've rarely ever really fucked with Chicago like that, unless it's super drug stuff, they went into O Block. And what O Block is a low income housing option. Mm-hmm. And whatever you're saying with that, by the way, at least I know in Jersey, I don't know if you still live in Jersey, but
I live in Los Angeles.
Okay, if you build a high rise, if you build anything, usually they require you have some option for people of low income housing.
Yeah, those policies unfortunately do not meet the demands of the market though. But yes, I'm familiar. They do it in New York too.
But hold on. When you have inherently a bunch of people who are living in low-income housing, despite the opportunity, they're more prone to just be at risk of throwing it all away just off a petty disagreement. You're living pretty good. You're going to think about it 5 times. So would I. But these people, you're living in O Block, and this is what we're talking about. We're not talking about people who are living in mansions. Like, I don't think.
But that's why I said raise the fucking minimum entry level for existence for all Americans. We have the wealth to be able to do so. We're the wealthiest nation on earth, and you still got motherfuckers living in Alabama, specifically.
I mean, I would really like if he could finish his point. It would be nice.
In black neighborhoods with no working sewage system, like that's disrespectful as fuck. That's completely ridiculous. You literally still have plantations in Angola, the Louisiana State Penitentiary.
It's just weird that he's like lecturing this guy about this topic that he knows about. Dude, just let him finish his point, because he was, what the point that I think he was trying to make was like, the lower income housing isn't great, and then like people don't really care still, right? So like basically what it sounds like he's trying to say to me is this: obviously one of the aspects of like a welfare system, an expanded welfare system, would be some kind of like low housing program. People are still risking it to lose that house. That's all I was trying to say. Like I just.
Operates like a fucking plantation. It's named after a plantation. Like, this is not a mistake. This is why I get so fucking mad whenever people try to deny white supremacy's permanent fucking institutional power in American development. There's a reason for all of this, okay? That's why motherfuckers like Tim Pool, who you said you watch, are regularly serving that same institutional, oppressive hierarchy by denying the reality of white supremacy in societal development.
Okay. So then I ask you, right? Because
he's just like looking for clips. Let me take a really quick piss. Let's continue this.
And by the way, I like watching both of y'all because I think y'all rational, and I see a lot of.
He is not rational. He is not even remotely rational. But
Hasan, you're certainly not rational. It's always good to get two sides of the story. Like, you might think that Tim Pool has progressive ideologies, but he's probably means well. Yeah. Okay. Let's continue.
Anyway, let's.
All right. So when you're also kind of borderline teetering on what would most people say is socialism, my guy. Like,
wait, what? Let me tell you something about myself then. Yeah, I don't give a shit. Yeah, I don't think that the capitalist organization of the economy is adequate. We don't need to have.
I will say, for somebody who advocates for socialism, which is fundamentally valuing people over property, it's interesting that when you were talking about statistics in that particular area, I think it was Chicago, you were saying that overall crime was down, and you admitted that homicide was up, so death of people was up, but property crime was down. And for some reason, that made you feel like that's a good thing, even though more people are dying. So you should be like, actually, we're still not solving the problem. We're solving property crime. We're not solving actual death of people. So it's kind of funny how kind of owned your own socialist stance before.
Have that conversation. But yes.
No, there's no way you believe in that. Hey, listen, I'm one of the biggest pocket watchers ever known to man. Like, I've already summed you up in what you make. And I sum up rappers, I sum up entertainers. Look, my guy Kai, I just did a whole little rap sheet of his thing.
Socialism is not a poverty cult. You don't have to be poor to be socialist, even though you can still advocate for those who are less fortunate than you. Russell Brand once famously said,
the majority of your luxuries just to improve the lives of other people who may not be trying or working hard.
That's not socialism. That is a bastardized American interpretation of socialism.
No, that's what would happen. What are you talking about?
Russell Brand once famously said.
So I think what DJ Akademiks is saying, like, yo, bro, you don't really live the lifestyle of somebody who's actually a socialist, which is true. I know a lot of you guys have been conditioned by Hasan, but Hasan doesn't care that as much as you think he does. And here, like, realistically speaking, and this is why I think that. Okay, I know a lot of people do like the "you make a lot of money" meme. It's deeper than that. We're in a situation where Hasan is rich. He was rich before he took his exclusivity contract with Twitch. Twitch is a subsidiary of Amazon, a company that is oppressive to its workers. Hasan talks about this, and yet Hasan took the exclusivity contract with Amazon, right? Twitch, subsidiary of Amazon, despite the fact that he says it's the worst company like on the entire planet, so that he can make more money. That's what he did. Instead of operating in a way where he could have pulled people from Twitch to hurt their bottom dollar onto a different platform. Could have done on YouTube. He could have made his own streaming service. And to all you shitting and coming and like, no, he couldn't have. Yes, he could have. Destiny literally made his own service. It's not that difficult with the resources he have. He could have made his own. He doesn't have to make it a super official one. He could just make it for himself. And then after he took the exclusivity contract, he would react to people's content, some of which he would just play on a stream while he took a shit. Stealing labor from other people. Now, I know some people aren't big on reactors. Yes, a lot of videos Hasan does, he reacts hard, but there are videos, and he stopped doing the behavior because I called out, but where he would just sit and watch people's content with no reaction whatsoever. And when people called him on, he's like, well, I have to work this much. It's part of my contract, which he took as a rich person that he didn't need to make more money. Do you understand? Like, Hasan doesn't give a fuck. He doesn't care. And realistically, people like Hasan will have less money and give up some of their material goods. And I think that he thinks that wouldn't happen because he's like, I'm not rich. You were rich. You're rich enough to lose some of your shit. Okay? Go open a business and pay your workers a percentage of the wage or something. I don't know what you want me to tell you.
When I was poor and I advocated for socialism.
He was never poor in his entire life. This is not a true thing. This person has a lot of money from his family. He may specifically not have had a lot of money. That's not poverty. It's not poverty when your parents make a lot of money and they'll give you money if you really needed it. It's not poverty to go to literally get like an American citizenship, get a really good schooling in Turkey, then come to America, get really good schooling in America, and then go move in with your fucking uncle in California and get an instantaneous job, get an internship where he's paying for your food and your house and like I think even giving you more money. You were never poor. You're a fucking moron. Stop pretending that you were poor. This is some loser shit. You've never struggled in your life. Oh, I've been hungry for 3 days. Okay, that's not poor. Poor isn't being hungry for 3 days, dude. Poor is a lot more than that. Being poor is not knowing if it's ever going to get any better. You have always had opportunities your entire life. Shut the fuck up. This is dumb. You've never been poor. You've never identified with working class people. I've been in a situation where I haven't had a lot of money. But even I wasn't truly poor. Like, I wasn't making money. I was like tens of thousands of dollars in debt. But truthfully, like, if I really needed the money, like, I had a robust support system from, like, my mom. She would have given me money if I really needed it. Right? Hasan was in an exponentially better scenario than I was. And I was in, like, a shitty scenario where I was, like, generating debt. I was with somebody who had, like, who had an autoimmune disease. They weren't really working. The whole thing. It was tough. That was tough. And even I can't identify with a truly poor person. But I wouldn't pretend to. But I could understand it more. But you, motherfucker, like, you don't know dick about shit. Do you know what it's like to pay $100 a week for health insurance for one person? Like, you don't. You pretend that you know about middle-class issues. But you don't. You don't know shit. Stop fucking pretending.
$9.99. How else is a black man supposed to feel when someone brings up slave plantations?
Bro.
He's trying to make him feel oppressed.
Maybe.
Also love your commentary. Have helped me research to form my own opinions.
Well, I appreciate that. Just make sure that you take everything I say as fact, okay? That's the best way to research. I'm just kidding. This shit's just so fucking pathetic. Hasan is desperately trying to cosplay a middle-class fucking worker. You're not. You've never been disadvantaged in your entire life. There's never been a point in your life where you've ever like had to really consider if things were going to go poorly. You got everything was handed to you between your family and then even from like Destiny and shit, who like platformed you and made your career. Like, you're pathetic. Shut the fuck up. Stop pretending that you were ever poor. It's so fucking annoying. It's just slap in the face to people who are literally living paycheck to paycheck. Because I know what that's like. I know what it's like to work 60, 70 hours a week just trying to make enough money to fucking live. I know about that.
They said I was jealous of the wealthy success. Now I'm wealthy and I advocate for socialism.
You've never been poor.
And they say
Pussy. Shut up.
I'm a hypocrite. Turns out they just don't want me advocating for socialism. They don't
No,
want
you're just a fucking moron that doesn't know what you're talking about.
me speaking out on behalf of the working class. And that is the truth.
You're a hypocrite. They're going to say you're a hypocrite because
they say it all the time. I don't give a shit.
even if there isn't an overarching or some type of like, policy that could just like advocate or just gonna make this happen, you have acquired a lot of wealth. Why don't you start distributing your wealth?
I do. But socialism is not about wealth distribution, even though I do that. But socialism is
absolutely about wealth distribution. What are you talking about? That's like the biggest part of it.
Not about wealth distribution. Again, like I said, that's a misunderstanding. And people also have fucking a lot of dummies have actually canceled me over fucking buying a house and shit because they're stupid. But socialism is at its very roots about making sure that you earn what you fucking make. Okay.
Hold on. You would move 5 niggas from Skid Row in that beautiful house. I've seen it on Google. You know you would not do it. And socialism would not be proud.
Wait, what? That's not social. Wait, what the fuck? That's
no. It's not socialism. I don't personally have to care about these people. I'm just saying. Why not like give like $100,000, $500,000 to like a poor black community leaders, like community leaders in a poor black area that know what they need in their community. I don't know. I'm just saying.
Yeah, of course I wouldn't do that because that has nothing to do with socialism. Why would I fucking do that? I can't individually solve problems. If personal
you actually can. This is one of the problems I have with people is you can. And this right here, this message from Hasan shows why he has this take with DJ Akademiks from the start. DJ Akademiks' point was, I know problems are bigger than just the gang violence. There's a lot of systemic problems. But it's a bad thing when you have rappers advocating for violence in communities, especially when they're rich and they don't have to advocate for that violence in communities. And it's bad when we get to a point where people are so brazen, they're so confident that they start going around bragging about killing people in their music. Right? And so this is a behavior we should change. It is a small step behavior. Okay? But Hasan, unless it's specifically systemic, Hasan doesn't believe that it's something that's good. Okay, that's like saying that you don't think that you should pick up the trash off the side of the road because there's bigger issues with the system. Is there bigger issues with the system? Of course. But if we all got into the mindset of recycling our cans and bottles, there would be a little bit less of an issue. But Hasan doesn't believe in anything that would require personal work. You can advocate personally to change the system. You can show other people who would look up to you that what you're doing is a good thing. You can absolutely do this. You don't have to do it, but don't pretend. I hate when you make excuses for it. Like, just be lazy and just don't do it. You don't have to pretend that, like, it will never matter. It's the same thing that, like, people who are like, I can't vote because it doesn't matter. I'm never going to vote because it doesn't matter. No, it's wrong. You should vote. Because the white people, they believe in voting more than you. That's, you know what I mean? They get elected officials that advocate for them. Because you're like, I don't want to vote anyway. Fuck it. You know what I'm saying? Saying, dude.
Charity was a foolproof method of solving the underlying problems that exist in society.
You don't have to solve every problem. It just has to make a dent.
And anyone who gave money to charities was deemed a socialist. Then Jeff Bezos would be the biggest fucking socialist around. It's not about that at all. It's about how you make your money. Do you have capital? Do you or it's more so?
Billion super chatted $1.99. It's bigger than black and white.
Absolutely, brother.
About earning a larger percentage of earning a larger percentage of the wages that you are creating for the company that you work for. That's what socialism is about. It's about getting the adequate pay and autonomy that you have in your life.
I will be down to give away.
It's more. It has to be more than that. It has to be. It has to be wealth redistribution, or you're a moron. Listen, whether you like it or not, technology is displacing jobs and driving down wages. Overall, there's a trend of a massively lower labor force participation rate. There's people getting paid less and less. You're seeing the rise of automation. It's creating some jobs that pay well, but overall, no business is going to invest in automation if it's going to make more. Like, it doesn't make any sense to invest in automation unless you can cut costs, and that cost is human labor. It needs to be about wealth redistribution because we're already seeing menial labor jobs like fast food jobs, self-checkout jobs, just like you press buttons now. Those are going away. We're seeing automatic air fryers. The technology is being worked on. We're seeing automatic cars being worked on. We're not there yet, but we're seeing factory jobs have massively been displaced. Either they'll sell them to another country where they don't pay people enough to live, or they just automate it with automation. All right, people are losing jobs. Truck driving. Even in truck driving, wages are stalling because of the implementation, the invention of a GPS, which drastically makes it much more difficult, or excuse me, makes it much easier to be a truck driver because you don't have to examine road maps. You still should, right? Bus drivers, like I have in my area, we have like a pretty decent system of like paratransit buses that pick up people with disabilities. They also have GPSs. It makes it easier for people to do it. Now, they still have to get the road test. But once you finish it, you don't actually have to memorize it that well. Right? These are things that are happening, bro. Like, it needs to be about wealth redistribution because we're going to lose jobs for everybody. We're not going to have enough jobs in the near future, 10, 20 years from now. Fine. It's just the truth, man. It's got to be more than just getting what you're worth. Like, there has to be a better redistribution stream because people aren't going to have, there's not going to be enough jobs for people to be, like, operating in. Right? Because automation is just displacing shit.
You know what I mean? The majority of my resources that I've acquired by working so hard, if I seen Hasan do it first. If you were like, yo, listen, man.
Okay, well, you should start then.
And I saw you with a nice, you know what I mean? A nice tent that you were kicking it with, you know what I mean? With like, you know what I mean? Like just one of those little fans with a battery. And I'm like, yo, if he's doing that, maybe I should sell my
Okay,
Lamborghini.
but you're missing the point because I don't want anyone to be living inside of tents. And I think that we have enough money as we collectively create enough wealth to ensure that. I have no problem paying my taxes. You earlier asked if I like dodge taxes or anything. I have no problem paying
I understand that. Like, okay, we have another Hasan fan saying that you understand that individuals can't do what the government can do. Yes, I understand that. I don't know when you joined, but if you didn't understand, like I was very explicit that individuals can still make an impact on the system and you have to start somewhere. If you didn't understand that entire rant that I went on about that, rewind the stream and rewatch it because you're not engaging with my content. You're here to defend Hasan instead of engaging with my content. You can disagree with what I'm saying, where I say that it's about going after the system as well as making individual changes. But if you're just not going to listen to what I'm saying just so that you can be like, oh, I disagree with you, you're just being a Hasan defender at this point. So I think that you need to be a little bit, you need to critically engage a little bit more in what I'm saying.
My taxes, I pay 55% or something like that. I live in Los Angeles. You know what I mean? I pay the highest percentage.
You need some tax breaks though. You're working inside your house.
No,
I know you.
So no, not at all. No. But it doesn't even matter. It doesn't even matter. What I'm trying to say is that I don't do that. But what I'm trying to say is I would rather, I have no issue paying higher percentage of taxes even now. But there are also a lot of untaxed income out there that billionaires and millionaires take advantage of. Okay. Like, for example, there's a concept called buy, borrow.
So is Hasan saying that he doesn't write off like his house at all in his taxes? I just doubt that. I'm sure that he engages in tax loophole. I would too. I do. I don't give a fuck. You can write off parts of like your rent, your phone bill, your electric bill, everything. I doubt that he doesn't do that.
Die. These guys, instead of paying taxes, they'll just assume debt. Right? They'll go to a bank and they'll say, I have $7 billion in assets. Give me $100 million right now. That's how Elon Musk, for example, just bought Twitter. He took $40 billion from a bunch of different banks. So he took that as a loan. Now all he needs to do is pay off the incredibly tiny interest rate on that loan on this wonderful financial package that they afford him that they would never afford to the random Joe Schmo when you try to get a fucking loan. So that's how they pay. That's what they do rather than pay taxes, because now that's debt. Okay. But now he has debt that he can use against all the tax that he has to pay. Well, it's called buy, borrow, die.
No. And I believe you on that. So that's where I would ask you. It feels like you're just like most Americans, and not necessarily believing in what people would say is socialism. You just believe that the richest people of this country should actually not be allowed to weasel and squeeze themselves out of not paying what's.
Yeah. If Jeff Bezos paid my tax percentage, we would have like 90% of the problems would be fucking diminished. Okay. But no one does that. No one even in my financial predicament even does that, except for like, I guess, Twitch streamers that I do know that don't give a shit and don't try to like shelter their assets or anything. But that's not even socialism. Socialism is about the means of production. Like when you make content on your own, right? You're your own boss, right?
Sure.
Have you ever worked a job under someone else though before you started doing this?
Of course. Well, I mean, so my last job was at Verizon Wireless in Brandsburg, New Jersey.
Perfect. So you worked at Verizon, right? And you had no control over your own schedule. You had no control over your own life. You had no control over what you fucking wear. They made you wear those ugly ass red polo tees, right?
So I worked at a corporate company, so it was Blackwood with the red Verizon letter.
Okay, but regardless, like you had no meaningful control over your own life. Yes, socialism is about ensuring that you at least have somewhat of a say, democratizing the workplace, and have somewhat of a say and more autonomy over the profits that you're generating for the company.
I mean, I see. My thing is like I'm fine with like, well, I don't know. To me, it's like I'm a little apprehensive about unions because my union was fucking dog shit, and they let them take away my benefits. So I'm not super on board with unions. So I'm more of like a UBI guy. I'm on board with all that, but I don't know how much I feel about all the workers having like a say in the specific happenings of a place. I mean, I think that you're giving some workers a little too much. Most workers don't give a fuck about what they're doing in their place, and I don't know if it's going to change too much. If you democratize the workforce, not everybody wants to care. A lot of people just go to work to come home. You know what I'm saying? They just do what they have to do, and then they leave. They do the bare minimum. Most people do. I understand it. So if you had like control over the workplace, it's just like a regular nobody. I don't know if it'll change too much. You know, I'm all for paying people better, but I don't know how I feel about democratizing the workforce. I don't know how I feel about that. You know,
that's what socialism is about. It has nothing to do with like fucking, I don't know, just being poor and living in a tent with a fan or anything like that.
Yeah. So. And I don't think anyone's a bad human in terms of saying that, oh no, people deserve to like be homeless, right? So like me intuitively believes that everyone should have some type of, especially when you're in the United States.
I think most people should be homeless. I don't like people, so I'm okay with people being.
Which we've seen the extremes of wealth that we're like, well, shoot, maybe he could afford less than owning a fucking island. Everybody in fucking Skid Row could just have a place to like lay their head other than outside. I don't think no one thinks that. I then ask you though, in terms of meritocracy, do you believe that a lot of what you have been afforded in life, because I do,
isn't meritocracy
I believe that I've made sacrifices, I've worked harder.
Work harder. It's about working harder and making more.
Things to try to get ahead. And I'm not gonna lie, this is one of the reasons I can't get down with that. Is like, Robbie, like if I didn't really have to do shit to at least have a menial, decent life, and everybody else
okay, so it's a ruling or influential class of educated or skilled people. I mean,
gonna have a downgrade, and nobody else was gonna have like all these great things. I'm like, fuck it, I'm not gonna do shit.
No, I don't think meritocracy is real. I'll just tell you right now, I'm a profoundly successful individual, and I don't think meritocracy is real. I think it's a lie that they tell people because we have no way of understanding whether a kid that was born in Oblak or a kid born in like fucking Mongolia has the capacity to achieve the same level of success that we did because they were born in a fucking different spawn point.
It's not really what he's talking about too much. Okay, so like I believe that there should be a society. We need to all be given, or the best to be given, like some kind of an equal opportunity. Absolutely. But there are going to be people who are just going to be better at other things than other people. Part of that's going to be like work ethic, right? Some things need to be worked out by themselves. The government can't like force people to necessarily like do particular things or have like an improved work ethic, right? So like, yeah, I agree with like decent wealth redistribution, but there are some people that are lazy, whether it's conditional or biological. A lot of people it's conditional, especially like people of color, because they've been put into bad conditions. But like, I don't know. It doesn't really matter. You know, it's okay to have a system that does operate a little bit on work ethic. Like I have a solid work ethic because my mother forced me to go into the Boy Scouts, and I learned a lot about that. Like obviously there's going to be things that give people an edge about a particular thing. That's why like I've always done well at any job that I perform. Like I know what I'm doing, and I usually work hard. Not here because it's easy, but you get my point. It doesn't have to be exclusively worked on that, but I found it interesting that Hasan talked about how poor he was for a while, and then he was like, yeah, well, you know, basically admitted that he had a substantial amount of nepotism granted to him.
So I think that level of probability plays a gigantic role in people's developments, and things have gone right in your life, right? I'm not diminishing your hard work. I'm sure you work very hard. I work very hard. I fucking, I stream for 10 hours a day. I work a lot harder than some of my peers, okay?
It's not hard work. Streaming 10 hours a day is not hard work. I'm just letting you know, it's just not hard work. You don't work hard. Like, why do we have to pretend that we work hard? Working long is not working hard. There are times where I worked really hard for a less amount of hours, and then there's times where I worked really long for overtime pay, and it was easy. Like, working long doesn't mean working hard, and we need to also pretend that that's... like, Twitch streamers don't work hard. You're not doing anything. You're sitting there watching stuff, playing a game. You're not really super engaging in a lot of stuff that you're talking about. You don't work hard. It's an easy job. We need to... It's like, this is what I'm talking about. This is how disconnected he is. He thinks that he works hard on Switch because I work for 10 hours a day. You don't work hard. These guys are working hard. That's why I'm going to fuck them in their butt right here. Suck my balls, bitch. Woo! Triple kill, baby. That's working hard, motherfucker. That's working hard, motherfucker.
What distribution for lower income areas?
Hell yeah, dude. Hell yeah. Okay, back to the video.
Sacrifices.
Yeah, I've made sacrifices. I've worked very hard, but ultimately...
No, you haven't.
There's people...
People gave you every opportunity that you had. You have more nepotism than anybody else. Shut the fuck up.
Who aren't as eloquent, who aren't as rational, and you could be like, oh no, this is a product of something else, but you are special in a sense because, okay, let's not think about the people who don't even have the opportunity to do what you're doing.
Yeah, but they could.
How many streamers get online every day and they're trying to break down certain shit that might be congruent to what you're doing, but they don't have the same result? You're doing something better than them, brother.
Yeah, no, I understand that. I understand that. However, there should still be a base level of security afforded to every single person so they can, if they wish to do so, maximize on their potential. And right now, with the current system that we exist under, we do not do that. A lot of people's potential is robbed because of the zip code that they're born into. And I think that needs to change. And as a matter of fact, societies that do have better social safety nets...
Yes, we understand that. Everybody understands that. All this guy's saying is like, yo, I still think that we should prioritize like people who work harder to rise to the top. Or not even work harder, but have like a better skill than other people, because not everything is difficult, right? When I worked at like my bus job, and like I was overqualified, I'm gonna be honest with you. Like, I mean, I was overqualified. I did a really good job, and I was able to do things really efficiently and easily, and better than like my peers who were much harder workers. In that capability, I'm a work smart, not hard kind of guy. You know what I'm saying? So I got more work done with less effort from everybody because I just knew how to like orchestrate like everything going on and like orchestrate like a system and put one in place very efficiently and get everything taken care of very quickly and easily. You know, but we should be valuing traits of like efficiency and hard work where we need it, of course, while also providing people like an access to like opportunity to get to that point to have that shit. But there's some people who are just gonna be better thinkers and for different reasons. Who cares? Doesn't matter.
Have higher upward social mobility. That's why you look at European countries, European nations, and you see far better success in terms of upward social mobility in countries like that because they have social safety nets that are more adequate. If you are not fearful that your health, your well-being is tied to your employment like you do here in the United States of America, you can make lateral moves. You can go and switch a job without fear that, like, listen, if I switch a job and that job doesn't offer me health care, I'm fucked if I get sick. You know what I mean? That's a huge L that Americans take on a daily basis. Okay? Same with college. Plenty of people in plenty of other countries can get that education. Some countries will literally pay you to go to college. In America, you got to go to fucking Afghanistan and get your dick blown off so you can get that shit paid for because education is the only viable method of upward social mobility. It's fucking...
Not necessarily. I mean, I don't know. Maybe he would consider trade jobs in educational programs, but he's right. There's a lot of issues. Funny enough, one of the issues with the American education system is like how the government subsidizes it. So because the government subsidizes it without any regulations on it, really, these basically the way that it usually works. I know, like for at least for like what is it called? bullshit schools. What are those called? Community colleges. The way that it generally works is that it gets subsidized by the federal and the local government, at least in my area, right? So like 1/3, 1/3, 1/3, 1/3 you, 1/3 federal, 1/3 local. Problem is that they don't really have any regulations on this so much, so they'll jack up the price, get more money from everybody. Kind of a fucked thing. It's one of the problems with like the way that we regulate some government. Like it can be fucked. We need to regulate it better. I think Andrew. Almost said Andrew Tate. Andrew Yang has a really good idea on that, where he only gives subsidies to these schools that make sure that they keep some of their costs in a particular order. Like for instance, there's a lot of instances where there's instances where like its administrative cost is like the biggest like expense increase, even though it does very little for the people. Oh, dude, you fucking old dude. It doesn't really increase the experience for teachers or the students, and like getting those under control. Being like, yeah, you charge whatever you want, but if you charge too much on these particular costs, then we're just not going to give you the subsidies, and this could help. Just figured I'd bring it up.
It's ridiculous.
Wait, what'd you go? You went to Rutgers as well. What'd you go to college?
I went to Rutgers. I went to University of Miami, and then I went to Rutgers, and I was able to do that because I come. What?
But I thought you were poor, Hasan.
Political science.
Political science.
Yeah.
You have a degree in this, and you suck at it.
This is where like
Jesus
I also
Christ.
fall off that bandwagon, and I think about people like you, and definitely people like me, right? So I went and I have a biomathematics degree. You have a political science degree. There's people who go to college who literally skate by, and yes, they may accrue some debt, but they're there for the experience. And a lot of times, you know, back in the day, Sally Mae or maybe Navient or whatever the hell, or maybe something like, you know,
GI Bill.
Yeah, well, I mean, well, that would be paid for. I'm talking about people rack up charges like that their either parents sign off for, or they look at like I'll pay back later in life, and then they'll go to college and not even take anything challenging. I'm actually a double major.
That's true.
So it's biomathematics.
Yeah, me too. In communication as well, but that's a bullshit degree on top of political science, which is also bullshit.
Exactly. Sociology is my second degree, brother. So you're telling me, yo, I used to go to sociology drunk, never really paying attention, never studied for shit. I had a 3.8 in that shit.
True.
I got like 1 C and 1 B. Anyway,
I know the point he's going to
here's
get
the
to, which I agree with.
You want me to
generally.
believe that meritocracy doesn't exist when I knew how hard I had to work for the degree, even though I didn't use it. Granted, I didn't use it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, by a math degree. And I'm just extrapolating to other people. In life, you're going to get what you deserve, what you work for.
So basically, like what he's basically saying is that there are people who get degrees and then they go to school and they don't do shit with it, which absolutely is something that happens. That is a problem as well. And if we did have completely free schooling, you're going to increase the number of kids going to school. It's going to increase the burden on like the taxpayer, even if they're not going to do anything with it. I think that we do a really bad job as a country of pushing kids towards particular fields that we need to push them towards, which is absolutely something we could do better at. We should be really pushing people towards trade jobs and whatnot. We don't have to force them, but trade jobs, computer science jobs, nursing, I think, shit like that.
And if we push a message
That's not true. I'll tell you the counter to that. You think the parent of 3 children in Oklahoma that's working for $30,000 a year as a teacher is not fucking working hard? She has to come back from school and then go do Uber deliveries in order to make ends meet. Baby. That person is working just as hard as you, if not way harder. But we have no way of.
Yeah, he's referring to the students who go to school and don't do dick about shit with it. Like, yes, that's a good example of somebody who works hard, but he's just talking about how there's some people that like can take advantage of what they're doing. Right, and like that woman should be, and if anything, that helps Akademiks' issue point, because he'd be like, yeah, that's why that woman should get rewarded more because she's a hard worker, right? It actually doesn't work against his point, but if we should value hard work more, if anything.
Rewarding those people, and we don't see those people. There are plenty of people that are infinitely hardworking, immensely hardworking, that do not get the adequate compensation for their labor. That doesn't mean that they're not working hard or working smart. They're doing all of that. The idea that you're going to succeed, I think, is still absolutely reliant on factors that are completely outside of our control. And I say that as someone who is immensely successful. I said it as someone who is I recognize my own success, and I also recognize a privilege that allowed me.
And he also overblows it. Remember, he said that he created the Twitch politics sphere, even though it is very objectively not him who did that. So
to get to this level, and I want to make sure that other people can also. They're not going to be as successful as me, but if they want to, they should be able to have the opportunities.
Let me just stop you right there. Okay, for your audience and mine, let me give you my story. I was born in Spanish Town, Jamaica. There's videos until I was 10, 11 years old running around with barefoot in a place called Clarendon, Jamaica. I lived in a place called
Sounds like Claire
Grantham,
Candy.
right? It's the most unlikely story that I'm here. My mom came up here after breaking up with my father, and she worked
Damn,
3
I'm getting
jobs.
fucking
Never
trucked.
never had a car. She walked from place to place, took buses. She never had nothing. What she instilled in us, and this is why, like, I always come to America and listen to people bitch about this shit. Be like, yo, y'all don't even know y'all don't really know the shit that's bad. When she came over here, the reason why of course, like the dream of being a doctor, everybody wanted to do, but the reason why I got a biomathematics degree is because I saw my mom work 3 jobs.
Wait, how rich is your mom now?
Well, I retired her.
Okay, so she didn't actually, so she worked 3 jobs and barely.
I've been noticing this trend of Hasan not really letting academics finish this fucking point. The point he's going to make is like, my mom worked really hard and she instilled in us like a value of working really hard, and that had a positive impact on me, and I was able to outperform other people who didn't want to work as hard. I accidentally hit E, sorry. That's a great point. Okay, cool. Yeah. There you go. And then Hasan's just like, whoa, she's rich now? Well, yes, of course she's rich now, you fucking moron. Like, these are such bad points from Hasan. It's like embarrassingly stupid. Wow, I'm going to change my thing probably.
Really made ends meet. But she worked really fucking hard, but she's not wealthy. So why do you think that there's such a concept as meritocracy then?
What?
Opportunity, and it's what
Because her son was able to have this value instilled in her that made him rich. And then he was able to retire her. That's the point.
put into it. Yes, she.
You think she didn't put enough?
There we go.
Hold on, she had a disadvantage. So when she came from Jamaica, she was a teacher. When you come from a third world country with a teaching degree, you have to go to college here again. She went to Felician College, which it's in Jersey. Then she went to Teachers College again. So she did what she was a teacher for damn near 10 years.
So she worked that hard, and yet she still didn't get millions of dollars.
Such a fucking loser.
No,
Holy
hold on.
fuck.
But hear what I'm trying to say.
So Hasan, are you saying? Are you? Well, I just okay. Whatever.
Again,
This is fucking stupid as shit.
That experience was her getting here. You know what that instilled in us? After we seen her mom do that, ain't nobody ever worked harder than me. You can't name a motherfucker who worked harder than me.
I know, but your starting point was way more fortunate than your mom because of all of her actions. You're making
Yes, and because you worked hard. That's his point. Like, that's what he's just saying, that we should have, like, all he's saying, dude, academics is just being a normal person here. I think everybody's like, yeah, we should have better conditions for everybody. Everybody should have better starting points. But we should also still value hard work. That's it. Normal person take, I'm dying, I have no teal. Shit in my mom's pussy.
making the point that I'm making as well. I wouldn't be in this position if it wasn't for my parents who worked hard, my parents who were relatively affluent when I was growing up. That
I was poor, but my parents were relatively affluent. That's how they were able to have me become born in America, and then raise me in Turkey, and then send me to really good schools in America. And then I was able to instantly get a job working for the Young Turks because my family pretty much did everything for me. They're relatively they made a lot of money. You were like upper middle class, okay? All right, this is fucking reality, dude.
that afforded me the best education possible.
Your starting point is based on your parents. For example, you know why my mom was in that
and you have no
situation?
control over that. That's my point.
Yeah,
that
but
is
I
literally
chose
my
my
point. My
mom's
point
mom.
is,
Are you
have
fucking
no
kidding?
control over your starting point, and that's a huge component. That's why there are plenty of studies conducted on this as well. Your
Fair
zip
race.
code.
I never said it's a fair race. I'm just saying.
Yeah, it's
it
not
is
fair,
fair.
and I want to make
So
it more fair. Is what I'm
simple.
saying. I'm not
So
talking
is
about the
he.
equality of outcome. I'm talking about the equality of equality of opportunity, which is
No, it
a
is.
fundamental American
Maybe-
right.
maybe-
Right. That's,
If
Yeah,
you don't make
great.
it, you have to push the ball forward for someone else. My mom could have never got to where she was coming from. She was battling for censorship half the time she was here. So she could
I'm
have never
playing so
really made
poor
it.
yeah,
to
we
the
should
point
we should
out
fix
there.
that. We should fix that. That's
Yeah, just keep
a thing that
interrupting
I
him.
advocate for, by the way.
Just keep interrupting.
And
him,
I
please.
agree as well. But what I'm trying to say is that the story of America, and when we act like, oh no, there is like a bunch of excuses that people can fall on. My bad. Okay. Bunch of excuses people can fall on. My mom brought the baton to a certain level, and it's the same thing. If your parents is from anything, granted, I feel like you're using survivor's remorse. Like,
No,
yeah,
you're
you
using
have-
survivor's bias. I don't have remorse. I'm happy. I love my life. I recognize my privilege. Okay.
There's no survivor's bias because he literally never struggled in his life. Like, it's funny how he was able to convince academics that he actually struggled in his life. That Hasan. It's funny that Hasan was able to communicate to him that he struggled in his life in any capacity when he never has. And now, like, this guy's eating it up. This is what I'm talking about. You got to be careful. This motherfucker is over playing how hard his life was. It was incredibly easy from start to finish. It feels hard for him because he's an entitled baby. But he never ever had to worry about anything in a true level at all. He never had to worry. And like, this is crazy. It's fucking nuts. Die, bitch. Boom, pugger.
I mean,
But I'm not like gonna apologize for it. I'm not like, oh my god, I'm so sorry. No, fuck that. I work hard every fucking day,
Not really,
and I'm
you
very
don't.
fortunate. But I recognize how fortunate I am, and I also recognize how unfortunate other people are. And I want to live in a fucking
Or
world.
you eat food in front of a camera and talk. Like, it's not that hard. And play video games. It's really not that hard. Okay. You're fucking full of shit.
world where everyone at the very least has an equality of opportunity, true equality of opportunity. I'm not talking about equality of outcome. I'm not saying like, oh, you work this hard, I work that hard, everyone should get paid the same. I've never advocated for that whatsoever. I'm simply stating that at its core, there are plenty of people who are fucked over from the starting point. They just have bad RNG and they have a bad starting point and they have a bunch of horrible things that happen to them throughout their lives, which they cannot overcome. And I do think that the human condition is awesome, and they could potentially, if given different circumstances, a different set of circumstances, they could improve their living conditions. But there are a lot of rich people that don't want to allow that to happen because they've made it. They're like, fuck you, I got mine. I'm going to kick the fucking ladder down behind myself. Your mom could have been in a way better situation overall if there was a better transitioning program.
I'm gonna watch that Fresh and Fit video after, don't worry.
Jamaica to the United States of America. If she didn't have to struggle, she never should have worked 3 fucking jobs. I think that, and she should have always been able to make a living wage across.
She should just grow up rich and affluent like Hasan's parents. I know I'm taking a lot of shots, but he deserves it considering he's trying to pretend that he was ever like fucking poor.
The board regardless.
Yeah, I agree with that, but I'm gonna call you a bullshit here. Listen, I'm gonna ask you a question. You're probably gonna deny it, but I know intuitively you believe in nepotism.
Wait, let's hear it.
You absolutely believe in nepotism, correct?
What do you mean, believe in nepotism?
I do.
No,
Yeah.
I think that nepotism is only a problem because of the current system that we exist under.
Which means that Hasan just said he believes in nepotism. I do too. Realistically speaking, I think that like you're the higher chance. Like, okay, if I'm gonna hire a worker, and let's say like let's say I'm gonna hire a worker, and let's say that like I have a really good worker at my company, and he's like, yo, I have a brother who needs a job. I'm more likely to hire that person because if the brother has a good work ethic, then I would imagine that how the fuck did you not die, you pig? Anyway, I would imagine that his brother would have a better work ethic than some random Joe Schmo off the street. I believe in nepotism, of course.
That's the only fucking way that we can actually get a job.
I thought this was about Kanye West. Yeah, but it wasn't
after
apparently.
college, I went in to apply. I graduated with a 3.85, right? Double major. You're supposed to be able to get in at least to like get in the door at any of these fucking companies or any of these to get an interview. No, all that was afforded to
Pretty sure he got an interview at something I don't remember. He instantly went to work for the Young Turks. What is he talking about? Okay.
me was fucking selling insurance. Okay, that's all I had. It was available to me. I went in.
Well, maybe there just wasn't jobs available for like the field that you wanted. Like you went into an oversaturated field. Like that's also possible. Okay.
And I did all these interviews, and it was all about selling life insurance to my fucking friends and family. Okay, I am a beneficiary of nepotism that still also plays a role into the privilege that I have. I went in and I worked for my uncle. He had a 26-person startup called the Young Turks. I'm sure you've seen it. I'm sure you've seen their videos, right? They didn't have anyone working doing biz dev shit at the time. I didn't know anything, but I was a go-getter. I was hungry, and I didn't have any money, so I was like, fuck it. This is the only job I can have, and maybe I can develop like a larger media role eventually. Okay? This is something that I admit all the fucking time. But obviously, I want to make sure that every other person at least doesn't even have to fucking rely on family members so that they can truly unlock their potential.
And this is where, I'm going to quote your arch enemy, which, you know what I mean?
Destiny?
My arch enemy? Who's my arch enemy? I don't have any enemies. They're like irrelevant random people that...
Like, come on, man, Andrew Tate. I'm going to quote him.
Who's he talking about?
This world we live in is player versus player. And what I mean by player versus player is like, number one, nepotism exists, right? Which means you're working hard for you and your family tree and your family line, and whatever resources you gain in this lifetime, you will probably pass on those privileges and luxuries to your offspring or somehow to your family who will be in a more privileged position.
I don't think this world is PvP, honestly. I think that that's capitalist dogma is what I call it. We think that we live in a cruel world where everyone is motivated by self-interest, sure, but there's so many collaborative components, whether it be your own family, whether it be your own community, whether it be your close friends, that play a significant role in societal development, and our education from the start has led us to think that it's a zero-sum game when it's never been a zero-sum game. It's always been done through cooperation. There has never been a single person that's ever succeeded without help from others. They might have unfairly or fairly compensated them for that labor, but individuals do not make champions. Okay, they rely on the strength of others, and united we achieve such profound accomplishments. No one's building a fucking skyscraper on their own.
I can do that.
And by the way, I'm arguing a point that honestly, just like, for the benefit of people like me, like we want to believe you, but like, and by the way, we want that to be true, but we just know that's not true. Like in just how we grow up, like we obviously want, you know, every human that
Didn't
gets
go off,
born
it's just fucking
this
old.
year to have the same opportunity to make it in whatever realm, and it should be off of.
Damn.
Not only should they be entitled to
I
a
mean,
minimum
why am I losing so much
level
today?
of living, but they should be able to achieve whatever they want to achieve based on their work ethic, this and third, within their lifetime. But that's just not true. And I think you know that's not true. And when it comes to like put it like this, well, if you believe that, I would then I'm gonna throw a fastball at you or maybe a curveball. Do you believe in reparations? Because
I
if
do,
you're-
yeah, 100%.
So you believe, you know what I mean?
What,
they
you
should
don't
be-
believe in reparations?
I'm not saying I necessarily do. I just can't see people giving it. I'm gonna be
Wait,
honest.
you don't believe in reparations?
No, it's not necessarily say I don't believe in it. I say I can't believe. I don't think that the people in power will ever concede to that.
Yeah, but
So-
who cares? Who cares? Yeah, those guys are fucking assholes. I'm talking about you. It's you and me right now. We're having a conversation. Do you think reparations are fair or not?
No, yeah, but I'm
Okay.
not. Also, no. The reason why I'm also not quick to jump to just saying that because a lot of people use that as the excuse. Like, oh, okay, we should be awarded with certain shit. So you know what I mean? Until it happens.
I don't think it's an
let's-
award, by the way. I don't think it's a reward. I think it's restitution.
Yeah,
It
it'd be cool if we could just finish the
is
sentence.
fair. It is just. It's robbery.
Oh my God, the virtue signaling. Can you just let him finish?
too crazy. Let's not.
Can you stop preaching to like a black guy about systemic racism who's clearly like understands it better than you? Like it's so annoying. Just let him talk. Let him say what he wants. I'm curious what his apprehension about talking about it is more than I'm curious about hearing you tell us over and over again how educated you are about particular social issues.
Like, there's certain people who live and die on, well, until I get what's owed to me, I'm not going to continue and strive forward by doing more work or doing whatever.
Okay.
In
I
reality,
understand what
you
you're
get
saying.
left behind.
I get what he's saying. I respect that take. He believes in okay, it's not what he said. What's being communicated, I'm at least the way that I'm interpreting it, so hopefully I'm correct, is what he's saying is like, I believe that there should be some kind of restitution for systemic racism, obviously, but I don't think that we should harp on it, because people who harp on it too much and use it too much of an excuse, it puts like it gets them in like a loser mentality kind of a state, for lack of a better term. I don't mean to be rude, and then they don't try to work hard, because fundamentally you can work as hard. There's a point you can work hard to try to get yourself out of your situation. The problem is that it's not always out of your situation. It just gets like marginally better. But okay.
You know what I mean? Because number one, like,
Papa, you're going a bit hard, LOL. This is a debate. From the start of this conversation, Hasan desperately pleaded that it wasn't a debate, and then Hasan is engaging in it like a debate. So even if it was a debate, what is your point then? I just wanted you to. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be rude. If you're first and foremost, your argument of this, you're going too hard. This is just a debate. What you're saying is it's okay for Hasan to be performative and intentionally dishonest, because that's debate culture. Debate culture is bullshit. Second of all, he said it wasn't a debate from the start. So whatever bullshit rules that Hasan's operating with, like bad faith, which he's constantly been doing, is something I'm going to call out regardless. Even debate should be like good faith. People should be able to like express things without constantly being interrupted and shit on, and like lied to in multiple different ways from the start of this conversation. So I think that that's just like a silly argument that you're using to try to say that I should be a little nicer, despite the fact that like we're an hour and a half into this, which means I've been reacting for 17 hours, and Hasan is just constantly making horrible fucking dog shit points and being dishonest. It's annoying.
this is pretty much as tangible at this point as the motherfucking, you know, as Bigfoot. Like, has there really been any substantial conversations that it's even going? Like, I mean, it's we've seen
What?
certain things enter like, you know, in terms of being a bill to
Sure.
like, you know, give reparations, but it's nothing really ever tangible that came out of this. You know what I mean? It's really kind of
Yeah, it sounds like he's saying let's just not make it like a goal, in a sense where he's like it's never going to happen anyway, so people shouldn't like harp on that point too much. Is like the once we get reparations, I'll be able to help myself, because it's probably just not going to happen. It's like don't get your hopes up. I get what he's saying.
of
Well, America
Like-
did give reparations. Do you know that? America actually did give reparations
ooh,
in the aftermath of the abolition of slavery. They gave it to slave owners. They lied to black people, and they said that black people would get reparations. That never happened. But they gave reparations to slave owners. That should tell you about what is just in this society, right?
okay. So and then we get to this. I talked to this person who you know, salute to him. He's a
It's an irrelevant point to make him seem like fucking like woke as fuck. This is so dumb, dude. Holy fuck. Like how what do you think it's like to be friends with Hasan? Because he's so boring. Holy fuck, dude.
brilliant guy. His name is Tariq Nasheed. You ever heard of him? Maybe
Tariq Nasheed, I'm very familiar with his work, yes.
you probably don't fuck with him either, right?
I mean,
But he-
he's an interesting guy.
He goes hard for the
ADOS movement.
yeah, the ADOS movement, and he believes in in reparations.
I think in the eyes of a white supremacist society, it doesn't matter if you're an immediate descendant of slave or not. I have a lot of African first generation friends that may even come here and assume that like racist white people or racist people in general are going to say, oh, well, you're an African migrant, so you're in a different situation. It's like, nope.
So first of all, like, okay, I understand the fundamental argument about colorism and whatnot, and how like there's racism even on black people who are like, you know, non-native Black Americans, we call them. Second of all, non-native Black Americans, like people from other countries, like fucking Haitian people and shit, have been like some of the most racist people towards other like black people. Like not for nothing. This is my experience. They don't want to be called black. They hate black people. You could argue that it's just trying to position themselves away from, you know, native Black Americans, I guess you'd call it. Either way, I don't believe. I personally am not a big fan. I don't like the idea of reparations, specifically because it makes sense to give money to people that are poor, but like, why would you give reparations to like a successful black person over like a poor white person? I would argue that anybody who's poor is probably a victim of circumstances, regardless of the situation. And I don't think it makes sense to give like a rich black person money, right? That's just the way that over like a poor black person, whereas like you're better off with that because yeah, a white person is probably not going to be oppressed because of their race, but a white person also might be oppressed because like they're a drug addict, which is usually like some kind of an issue with like pharmaceutical companies and like turning to self-medication and like blah blah blah. And I think it's just better to focus more on outcomes of like who's poor and how can we help them, rather than talking about it in like a reparations type of a stance. So I'm just gonna wait for my ult to finish. And this guy's gonna cuck my ult, so I'm gonna cry.
In the eyes of you know a lot of racist people, they just don't discriminate between whether you're a first generation black person or not. You're just black. So I think that white supremacy impacts black people regardless of their their original material conditions and how they got here.
And by the way, like, you know, even harping back to your question about
a lot of people discriminate against black people based on like how educated they feel like they are. So that's not entirely true. There's different. I mean, it depends on where you're at. But like I've heard like white people be like, oh well, they're one of the good ones, kind of a thing. Like, oh, they die there, bitch. Fucking bitch ass. You know, I think it's a little more complicated than the way that Hasan's talking about it, but okay.
If I believe in reparations, you know, I was born in Jamaica, you know what I mean, which is Jamaica's a colony of, you know, the UK. You know, we've been like the Queen and others have been, you know, it's on our currencies, on a lot of things. You know, at least odes to her.
That's slated to change. Jamaica's making an initiative to leave the Commonwealth.
No, of course, like we've been on that for a little bit. Ooh. But however, you know what I mean? It's like, do we feel like we would be more well off if, like, you know what I mean, say Britain was like, yo, here's his fucking check for every one of you guys who are, you know, native and born to the island that could possibly put you in a better situation, and which would be a minuscule part of, like, you know, all of the oppression and all of the like, I'm with that.
You would be immediately better off right off the jump. You would be better off. However,
I agree.
However, the economic.
Hey, can we listen to? Can he finish his point? I just want to listen to what this guy's talking about. I want to hear what he's talking about. I want to hear his perspective on like reparations in Jamaica and shit. I'm like actually genuinely interested, and you just keep cutting him off to throw another point in there about how you're well, did you know they're actually going to disengage for the Commonwealth? Shut the fuck up. I don't care. I want to hear what he has to fucking say as a guy who grew up in fucking Jamaica. He's talking about his personal experience. You got to give us something jerk off fucking bullshit. Shut the fuck up. It's annoying. It's very annoying. Stop interrupting him to give us so that you can tell us that you're smart. It's fucking childish and it's fucking embarrassing for you. It's fucking pathetic. I'm gonna die. I'm gonna get pissed off. Just tired of all the fucking bullshit. It's really annoying. And Jesus fucking Christ.
The economic calculation of reparations is a difficult one. I'll admit.
Shut the fuck up.
But that's the bare minimum. Like giving immediate financial restitution, immediate financial compensation for some of these wrongs is just a starting point.
Tucker.
As Malcolm X said, as Malcolm X once famously said, like white supremacy is like being stabbed in the back with a knife. Okay,
bro, I genuinely wish a white supremacist would stab me in the back with a knife, right, like at the top of my fucking spine right now, because that's what it feels like listening to you. I just shut the fuck up and let this guy talk for a fucking second.
People want to fucking pull out the knife a little bit. Most people are arguing whether you want to pull out the knife, 10%, 20%, but that's not how this works. You have to pull out the knife and start mending the wound, start tending to that wound. And most white people don't even want to talk about the knife's existence to begin with.
And some white people won't shut the fuck up about it when a black person's telling you about their experience. So we're all struggling.
There are varying degrees of blindness to the historical impact of slavery. Jesus. But reparations is just pulling out the knife.
Hey,
Cool, thanks.
I agree with you, but that calculation is also like this. the reason why someone like me, as opposed to like Tariq, right?
I
Like,
wish
Tariq
he
is
could
pushing-
finish this
he
point.
has a whole
This is the
movement
problem: is that
pushing-
academics goes to like make a point and talk about something, and Hasan interrupts him to sound woke, and then the conversation shifts to a new spot because like there's no fucking consistency here. This is insane.
Or what that would look like. What I tell people of color, and I tell people, especially black people, especially like, you know, people who might be immigrants like me, is like, hey, listen, check this out. If you sit here and you have this excuse like, yo, hey, we're waiting for what we're owed, you're gonna be left behind. Because
I don't think people wait. I don't think people like. I don't believe that.
I'm waiting to fucking kill myself.
Because people need to survive, right? I don't think people are being held back because they are waiting for reparations.
No, if you're believing in movements that's turned this into some tangible thing, like if like a lot of stuff with Tariq Nasheed, it's like, yo, hey, once we get here, then it happens, bro. I just tell people, I'm like, yo, keep doing your thing. Hopefully, you know, people realize, you know, like, which usually it's never happened in society where someone just admits their own wrong or admonishes himself. But even if it's like, you know, it's held by somebody else and they're like, okay, cool, we will do this in reparations. It should be as much as it's not only owed and deserved and this and third. Just don't fucking wait for it, man. And that's my whole thing. You get what I mean? So
I just don't think anyone's actually just sitting around waiting for reparations. Like
Nobody's just sitting on waiting for reparations. The only point that he's trying to make is like there are people who they might get too hopeful on the idea of something that's never going to come, and then like they may like potentially not work as hard because they're like, well, you know, soon things will be more fair. Which I understand. Like, that's what he's just trying to say. That's kind of like a real world thing that does happen. People fundamentally. That's all he's saying. You don't have to like fucking shit on every single human point that's true.
I've never met someone that's like, I'm not actually going to work today because my reparations check is going to come in the mail eventually. I think most black people are understandably pessimistic about a white supremacist society to do that, to be like, oh, one day reparations is going to happen.
I think some people also use it as a reason to excuse behavior, though. And
I know what you're trying to get at, but I don't agree with it.
No, you don't.
What I'm going to say.
Stop saying. Okay, well, I'm more inclined to believe the black guy about black people than the white guy. I don't know what I want to tell you. Those of you who might be upset about my take on reparations, I understand what you're saying. Like, if you ask me, do black people deserve reparations? Probably, but like, I'm looking at it from a situation of like, I'd rather help all poor people in general. Fuck. It would make more sense for the progress of society to help all poor people instead of just exclusively black people. Doesn't mean that I hate reparations or the concept of it. I'm just saying that's just my general take. It would make more sense to me logically to do like that. You can disagree with that. It's fine, but
I've heard that a lot from people that are, you know, more Candace Owens types will say stuff like that, or, you know, Republicans say stuff like that.
You know what you're saying, and I'm not painting that broad brush to say everybody, but I do know people who, you know, because they have ignored they're so hell bent on some of the things that's happened historically, and obviously some of the things that's happened that's going against, you know, people of color and people who are especially black, right? Like myself and them, and whether they were born here or not. Usually I've seen some of them just kind of like, you know what, I'm not saying all, and I wouldn't give it a percentage on it. They've like almost kind of like fell into it a bit. And that's one of the things that, in terms of spreading the message, again, granted, I have overcame a lot of odds, but if we just kind of make it kind of, hey, this is a normal that you should think that you can't do the same, or you shouldn't be, you know, fighting against some of these odds you're against.
I not get it, dude.
Bro, I just don't think people of color are going to go anywhere. Because honestly, I don't think they're finna give no type of, they're not like.
Well, yeah, exactly. If we focus on helping poor people more, black people will disproportionately benefit from that. Yeah, for sure. Because they're disproportionately poor because of systemic racism. Yes, sir.
I think most people recognize that reparations is probably impossible to achieve. I already said that.
I mean, like, if I was gonna like do reparations, not that who gives a fuck about me, but I would probably give it to like black community leaders in like their communities to distribute how they feel, like money to them to how they would deal with their own community. Because I don't know, you know, obviously as the government doesn't understand anything about shit about black communities, so you just give them like a certain amount of money for them to do something in their community that would be beneficial to the best of their understanding of living in that community. That's how I would do it if I was a based warrior.
I mean, I think it's a moral right. I think it's a starting point to correct, at least to start to try and correct some of the wrongs, right?
It's just a conversation that's basically null and void if we're saying that we don't even think it's probably going to happen. You know what I mean? If we're,
but it shouldn't be, and I'm not going to stand in the way of others who are making an honest effort to try to make that change, though, because everything I believe in is unrealistic in the short term, but that's not what I'm in the business of. I'm not in the business of short-term gain. I'm in the business of trying to get people to understand why they feel shafted and why their anger is actually righteous, but redirect that anger not to like random immigrants that are trying to make a living or black people or anything like that, and to recognize that it's the system that is designed this way to shaft them. So that's what I do. That's what I believe in. I'm sure you've heard this said before, but a society only prospers when old men plant trees they will never sit in the shade of. And I believe that it's you got to put building blocks down to ensure that we have a better future for future generations, even if you are not going to see the immediate tangible benefits right now. So that's the way I live my life.
Okay. And I agree to a large capacity of that. And that's why I said, like, again, going back to all the front of the conversation is that I listen to you a great amount. And by the way, one of the reasons, and I don't know what your issue is with Pool, but like I only listen to YouTubers and streamers, and I listen to people who I think could at least give a real rational explanation of even the talking points, even if I listen to a lot of shit I don't agree with. You know what I mean? Like I've put like this, I got into like listening to a lot of Fox News like a couple years ago, and I used to be like, I don't agree with them, but I'm like, yo, are these people just gonna say shit, or are they gonna try to substantiate their bullshit? And even if they tried to, I'm like, this is more fulfilling than just listening to an echo chamber. So again,
I mean, I listen to a lot of Fox News. I probably listen to more Fox News than most people's dads do. So I love listening to Fox News. I mean, they're fucking bad shit, but at least they're entertaining. Tim Pool's not even entertaining. He's just classic. Claims he's a liberal. He's a Republican.
Hey, listen, I'm used to being for hip hop. Have y'all talked?
I mean, we interact with one another every now and then, but I
think Tim Pool wants Hasan to go over there and talk to him. That would be cool. I'd like to see that conversation. That'd be interesting.
I don't like his worldview at all. I think he is a dishonest a grifter for the most part. He claims he's a liberal. He's not a liberal. He is a believer in a lot of the awful ideas and advances the agenda of a lot of these like nefarious these nefarious talking points that the Republican Party and sometimes even the Democratic Party engages in.
I don't really know a lot about Tim Pool. I haven't watched him a whole lot. I just know that he's short, and I don't respect short people. So that's pretty much all I know about Tim Pool. So there's my take.
And this is the last thing I ask you. Yo, my man Andrew Tate, brother. Again.
Why does he keep talking about Andrew Tate? What the fuck?
I wonder if I never heard you speak on this particularly, right?
Okay, what? I'm curious.
I know some of your hardline opinions on him, but do you feel like he crossed the threshold of being deplatformed? I feel he didn't. I feel his content could be taken and interpreted in many.
You want to know what? Here's my thing. Because like my take on Andrew Tate is like I don't think based on what he was saying he should have got deplatformed. He wasn't actively advocating on violence. There are people who take some of the things that he said out of context. It seems like intentionally. But I've watched Fresh and Fit talk about this, and like I think Fresh Prince. He had a really interesting take on it that the reason that it happened, the reason why I'm okay with the ban. Is because he started talking to kids basically through Twitch. I'm not saying he talked to kids, but and like it becomes much more dangerous when you start advocating to like this, like these ideologies where they can be much more easily taken out of context. And I'm not saying all of it was. A lot of Andrew Tate's full of shit, but that's where I think it really happened. Where it's like once the kids started getting involved, platforms full of a bunch of young people, and you saw like the spread really of like the poisonous ideology that he was talking about. That's where things went off the fucking rails. So you know what? I'm just apprehensive about censoring speech that people don't like, as long as it's not dangerous, because I just feel like that might be like a bit of a slippery slope, kind of going down there. But yeah.
Lenses. But I don't think the threshold, but you have to realize what my threshold is. My threshold is that you are serving up content or ideology or ideas or rhetoric that is of imminent danger to humans, individuals.
Does he feel that way?
That even might include kids. I don't believe he was. What do you think?
Oh yeah, I agree with that. I think it was shitty, but
pissed off conservative white moms. That's what happened eventually. He used misogyny as a launching pad.
He pissed off conservative white moms. So a conservative dub then for by your logic? What? This is such a weird argument.
For his own personal career.
Conservative
right?
dub,
He wanted
baby.
to use that to launch his own multi-level marketing scheme, Hustlers University. And because of that, because he just like didn't even hold back on some of the worst components of misogyny and try to mask his rhetoric at all. Because of that, he became profoundly successful, but he made himself the face of misogyny on the internet. Now, a lot of these platforms are responsible, significantly more responsible than Andrew Tate is personally, right? The platforms are the real issue here. But of course, they're going to use that as an opportunity, especially if it pisses off enough people. They're going to use that as an opportunity to chalk up a W to make it seem like they have no place for hatred on our platform. That's why my man was a Richard Spencer of misogyny. Okay, he was the poster boy. He was walking around saying the most insane shit, like beating women, pimping them, all this other stuff.
He wasn't really saying beat women. He was. I know exactly the one he's talking about. First of all, dude, don't fucking kill me. The first instance is like that thing that he had going on with that girl who later came out and said that it was just like that's just what they do basically in the bedroom, so you can't really fault them for that. And it seemed like that came out as like a big brother plug to play like a particular character, like a big brother character. Second of all, with the whole beating women, that was he has a machete in his house. And that was around, he was like, I have a machete. And some people say, what happens if you cheat on your girl and your girl tries to hit you with it? He's like, I would beat the fuck out of her. Like, it was just like, he wasn't advocating for beating women. Like, that's the whole point that I'm saying. Like, it's a very, not grounded perspective. He never advocated for that. I think he's shit. I'm just saying he never advocated for beating women. So it's like an inaccurate statement to make.
That wasn't necessary rhetoric. That wasn't necessary. No, we got to be honest to him and fair with him now. He wasn't hey, go beat a bunch of women. I think his worldview. By the way, I'm gonna be honest with you. I do believe a lot of things that was later taken out of context. He was very. It was hyperbole, bro.
Oh, for sure. I think he was exaggerating. Whether he truly believes it, whether he truly believes it or not, doesn't change its impact though, because he was like quite literally like churning out misogynistic content specifically to gain more prominence. Now, there's also stuff that he did on the other side, like in his personal life and whatnot, which I'm not even going to get into because I don't think those are the reasons why he got banned off these platforms. He got banned off these platforms because he reaped what he sowed.
Some people have inaccurate because I ain't gonna lie to you. When I first heard it, I was like, oh yeah, he was beating a girl, like blah blah. And then I realized that was not true.
No, that's BDSM. Some of it is BDSM. Some of it is actually abusive.
What part of it's abusive? I don't know what you're referring to. Is there a third thing I don't know about? Because I already talked about the instances that people are referring to.
That's not what I'm talking about. I'm specifically talking about his commentary, right? He thought that there would be no repercussions for becoming the poster boy of misogyny. He saw the literal benefits of it, okay? And then when it got to a point where like he was exploding in popularity and you got little kids going back home and like, at school and shit, talking 11-year-olds talking to other 11-year-old girls being like, you're a woman, you don't know anything.
True,
teachers start hearing about it, and then conservative parents even start having an issue with this. Of course, everyone's saying Andrew Tate. That's the dark side of that profound amount of fame that you reached. When people are going to say, all right, we got to deal with this issue.
Hey, I also want to ask you this one thing too, because I've been following this too. I want to bridge a debate, which I actually do think you're good at debate, but I want to bridge a debate between you and I feel like you've been ducking him, no cap. I feel like you've been ducking my man Myron out of Fresh and Fit.
He has been.
I feel like when you debated Andrew Tate is someone who operates.
He did. Listen, and people don't. Okay. When the whole controversy where Ethan was pushing that fake sexual assault case, their allegation against Fresh and Fit, I had watched their 6-hour live stream. They showed the DM proof that Fresh and Fit were willing to do like an in-person thing. Or no, they were willing to do it in person, or they were willing to do it over the computer or whatever. And like they just inevitably denied it. So, yeah, they are kind of ducking them. I'm just saying. If you don't believe me, I don't know what to tell you. I watched the whole fucking 6 hours of it. They showed the proof that Ethan and Son were fucking ducking them. So, they showed the DMs.
Experience, but it's definitely not in tune with a lot of statistics and facts. And knowing your history and knowing your background, you got to spar with someone.
I'm not ducking them. I was actually down to debate them. I was down to debate Fresh and Fit when they were popping off.
You and Myron. Dolo.
Oh, so now you won't do it because they're not popping off anymore? So it's all clout game? You don't care about the dangerous rhetoric aspect? Like,
I think there was H but really, I think...
I'm still down to do it. It's just that, like, the way I see it, I think debates are pseudo-intellectual sparring.
Yes,
I think if you're rhetorically gifted...
That's because that's how you engage in debates. You're projecting. That's how you were engaging into this. It was pseudo-intellectual bullshit. You just want people to know that you're a smart guy. Fuck. Did we lose?
You don't even need to have access to all the information. It's not necessarily the side that has the truth that wins debates. It's the side that is more capable of like outspeaking the opponent.
That's how people might perceive you winning this debate because you just continuously fucking did that.
That wins debates functionally. And what that means is like when you're winning a debate, what are you winning?
I know that Ethan said that they wanted him to go to Florida. Like again, I specifically read the messages between them. And Fresh and Fit conceded to doing it over like a webcam interview. So like that was an excuse at a certain point.
There's 40% of your audience that's not going to change their opinion. 40% of their audience is not going to change the opinion. 20% in the middle could go either way potentially, and they respond to shapes and colors and you know
You're fighting for the 20.
yeah. So you're fighting for the 20%, which is correct. So that's
why not fight
why.
for them?
Because I don't think it's about like establishing the truth, and because I think it's about like winning over at 20%.
When I've watched Fresh and Fit like debate, I don't like Fresh and Fit's ideology, but I've seen them be more honest about their takes. They're wrong about their takes, but I've seen them be more honest about their takes. So like, not for nothing, I see people Fresh and Fit who I disagree with vehemently on a lot of their shit. I don't like the manosphere bullshit, but like they don't try to be dishonest, right? Meanwhile, Hasan, pretty much opposite. So,
I usually don't debate people that don't have like a significant audience because like for me, I'm very open about it. I'm very open about it. Like it has nothing to do with someone being like super skilled in debate or anything. But I usually don't have a conversation with them because like why give even potentially dangerous ideas airspace, especially when there are people that are more popular who has a larger 20% overall that I could take from.
So talk to Tim Pool.
Hey, listen, I'm gonna call cap on that just because I heard you talk about, and this is how I view that sphere, right? If it was anything, it was Andrew Tate, Myron, then Sneeko, and I've heard you talk about Sneeko, and I'm like, of course, he just got deplatformed from YouTube, but
yeah, but he fell down a way different rabbit hole than I think other people, unfortunately.
You're right, but that's what I'm saying. Why would you duck Myron? Like it feels like you got.
I just don't think he has a large enough audience. But I mean, I don't have an issue with like debating him. I don't think like
part of that. I want to be the middleman, or at least be. I don't want to pick sides.
Look, when they're hitting more than like I don't know 1,000 people or whatever in their fucking live streams, I'll consider it. Like I talked to you not because like I was gonna debate you or anything. I just but you have a much larger audience beyond what do you call it? Beyond like however many.
Like I can okay, so this is the problem. I can kind of understand the one side of the arguments. Like I don't want to give some people like free clout, whatever. But then also, which is totally possible. But then there's the other side of the argument is like that he just doesn't want to engage if he doesn't feel like it's going to be good for his bottom line. So like I don't know. Part of me feels like Hasan's just being dishonest, and I need to heal. I'm gonna die with this ult, aren't I?
People are watching you currently on Twitch.
No, I get it, and put it like this.
Who cares about their live stream views? Like, why is that specifically relevant? Like, there's other things to it. What about their overall views? Like, they got almost 1 million subscribers. What do you mean?
And I remember like watching that whole thing when it was like I think they were trying to set something up with H3. It's like, listen, it's one thing debating the personality, but you need someone like, bro, you're armed with a lot of facts and a lot of things that
why are we losing
to the natural and like I don't even know how people thought this conversation went, but it's like
you not have a tank?
I've seen you steamroll motherfuckers, bro. Like, you feel me?
Yeah,
so,
I mean,
like,
I think I could probably steamroll them too. I'm not like I'm not.
Hey,
I don't think they have anything unique to say that I haven't heard a million times over.
Neither do you.
No. Well, it won't. It'll be counteracting because you have a lot of points. It'll be counteracting. He knows all the stats that he needs to know, just like how you know all the stats.
Yeah, I've looked at some of his stats. They're ridiculous.
And that's why I want to see it. It's like a heavyweight fight. It's like
I wouldn't say it's a heavyweight fight. That's what I'm saying. Like Andrew Tate at his peak was a heavyweight fight. That is definitely one I will take on because I did think that
but Tate was larger than you exponentially, so like you basically cloud farmed off of him. Why not, pass it on, dude?
Do you think that his rhetoric was captivating for a lot of people, and a lot of people were repeating dangerous ideas, like really incorrect shit?
Yeah, Russian Fit should have jumped on the conversation when they could have, for sure. If Ethan's like, I would have talked to them before, but now I'm just not interested anymore, I would have respected the fuck out of that. But he keeps pushing this idea that they ran away from the conversation, which is just not true, and that's my issue. We are never going to push this point. This is fucking insane. Like, I don't know what's going on here. Like, it's a tank issue or a heal issue. I don't know if it's a DPS. I mean, it's a DPS issue for sure. Oh, okay. It's a DPS issue. They have like 10 and 11K, and we have fucking 8 and 4K. I mean, I'm doing the DPS on the 8K, but it's just like, holy fuck. We have like, this other DPS isn't doing shit. Okay.
I've been thinking about it, but I don't think they're heavyweight at all. They're a bit washed, I'll be honest.
Hasan.
Brittany Renner rolled them, and I think like since then, they haven't really made a big...
Hasan. Honestly, first of all, I gotta come to LA anyway. I would come out just like I was the middleman between them and Brittany Renner. I'd come out to LA because honestly, I'm a gambling man and I'm a betting man, and I really think you catch the L on this one. And again,
I think you're trying to get me riled up, so I'll do it. But I don't have an issue with doing it. I'm down if it's if it's convenient for me. But I'm telling you,
And to push hard as fuck,
It doesn't
baby.
have to be like something. Listen, it could be this week on Twitch. It could be in person. It doesn't matter. I think that you are one of those people who are an intellectual bully. And when you have new info and when you hit
Holy fuck.
people with facts that they can't counteract, it's an easy conversation. And I see you do it with one of the greatest, which is Tate. Tate is a smooth guy. He could talk all around. But you started to hit him with a few things, and once you started having him backpedal, people are like, "Whoa, did he like, you know what I mean? Yeah, did he stun him?"
He's an intellectual bully,
I don't think you
dude.
do that with Myron. And I know you don't want to. I feel like you saying that they're not big enough is you just not wanting to do it. I'm telling you.
I mean, I've
in the mid, in
That
the
is
midst.
what it is.
my man,
yeah.
I've debated Ann Coulter, Larry Elder, like
Yeah, people who had clout for you to farm from. Like, that's the point. And that's fine. It's fine. You don't have to talk to them. I'm just saying, like, yeah. Not like you don't want to do it. You don't think it's worth your time, which is fine. Just say that. Be like, yeah, I don't think it's worth my time. This is boring.
There are plenty of people that I've debated that do this for a living. When Myron was literally a Fed, back when he was straight up working for the federal government, I was out there debating people that that they're basically getting the talking points from.
Yo, I hear what you're saying, but like, you see, you weren't debating about these particular subjects, right? So like, again, there's only two people.
No, I've talked about misogyny and things like that for sure.
Yeah, but they're
Right, but like the manosphere wasn't as like, this is not the prevalent conversation as like the manosphere. Ah!
their topics isn't about misogyny. Like, you think they're misogynistic. Their topic isn't
They
about
are
misogyny.
misogynistic.
Or traditional modes of living or something like traditional modes
Yeah, he's
of
true. Because you got to get him
existence.
to talk to Myron. Yeah,
Yo,
true.
right now, you know what you're doing? You're doing the Floyd, man. You're picking your fights. And
Oh yeah, no, but I admit that. Why wouldn't I? Yeah, of course.
So you're saying you're ducking.
Well,
Yeah,
I can
I'm
respect that.
100% picking my fights because if someone is irrelevant, like if Floyd Mayweather fought every single person that challenged him, he'd be out here fucking fighting in the streets every goddamn day. Yeah, when you're Floyd Mayweather, you don't have to do that. You can pick your
Fuck, I
fights.
just fucked up.
Nah,
They are the ones who need to. They are the ones who need to work a little bit harder. If they get to like a good level where they have a decent enough audience,
I just feel like they do have a solid audience. They're getting like they got like almost 1 million subscribers. They're pulling decent numbers on like the videos that they post. I feel like they're comparable to Hasan. The only difference is they're not getting as many views in their live streams. So like I feel like if he just say I don't want to debate them because I think that they're boring or something, or that the conversation isn't in season, I guess you could say. But like like stop pretending that they're a small. They have 1 million fucking followers. Like, what are you talking about? Like, you're being silly just because you get more people looking at like watching you play Breath of the Wild on Twitch doesn't mean that like they're not relevant. It's kind of just silly.
Decent enough size.
Why would you
audience,
ult
then
me,
maybe I'll
bitch?
consider it. Which is why I was super down when they were first popping off, because back then it was a good time to do it.
Damn.
I mean, they get a
They're
lot of
getting more relevancy from this conversation than they had in weeks, I would say.
Weeks? That's not a very long time.
Yo, Hasan, you're a legend no matter what, okay? And I'm listen, we're gonna have some similarity no matter what because we're both from Rutgers, New Brunswick, or don't tell me you went to Newark, brother.
No, New Brunswick, yeah.
Oh man, like myself. Listen, yo, great conversation. I like to talk to people like you who I feel is very intellectually sharp and also could pivot and also
I don't think I'm that intellectually sharp. I think I'm a dumbass, but
Yeah,
I bring
you are.
common sense talking points to
No,
the
you
table.
don't. You lie
that
a
is
lot.
your.
You're dumb as
Okay,
fuck.
stop the bullshit. Listen, the reason why you're popping off so much on like Twitch and these platforms, of course, you're talking on some common sense
It's
level.
because he's saying he's attractive and he's saying what people want to hear. That's literally it. I just want you to know that. And he's got a significant bump from everybody around him, and that's why.
Which always like think about even when
I am dragging the team.
Jon
yeah.
Stewart popped off with like the Daily Show, like he made it seem very common to the common man and he added some comedy, but like he was super intellectually superior to a lot of
I personally I find it offensive to even compare Hasan to Jon Stewart. Jon Stewart is objectively more intelligent and more honest than anyone else. Even if there's areas where people disagree, like he's actually honest, then Hasan is not. It's like that's unhinged to even consider that comparison. That's fucking insane. Hasan is nowhere near that level of honesty or integrity or intelligence. Just being clear. Just being clear. Okay? Because it's the truth.
people he was going at. Let's be honest, brother. So again, I'm giving you the credit. But hey, we could have these debates, but I do want to see you in mine. That's what I'm saying.
Maybe.
I think that's the only thing I've seen you with.
If they got their analytics to improve a little bit, then yeah, I would do it.
You can go viral, man. I'll be in the mix.
Okay. All right. Well, this was a wonderful conversation. Thank you so much for taking the time out.
Wow.
And by the way, I want to invite you and encourage you, if you have any issue with me, I would love to talk to you. I didn't know
Okay.
this was happening today,
Yeah.
but I'm very happy that whether it's an agreement, disagreement, or just trading of ideas, we could just speak to each other. And I appreciate you for that. Okay.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Have a good one, man.
Wait, you get like I'm exhausted, but I'm getting off stream.
Oh no, I'm gonna keep streaming. I have some stuff going on now.
Jesus Christ, I'm
Yeah.
exhausted. I'm getting out of here.
Yeah, I've only done 5 hours and 33 minutes. There's so much more to cover still.
Bro, I did 5 hours and 37. I'm done. Like, I'm not Kai tonight. I gotta get out of here, bro.
Yeah, no.
Yo, hey, you have my you have my Twitch.
I have your Twitter and your Discord.
Yeah, anytime you need to hit me about anything, just
All right, hurry up, finish up.
Right?
All right, we'll do. All right, peace.
I love-
That was DJ Academics. I was more interested in having a productive conversation because like this conversation
No, you weren't. You didn't have a productive conversation.
will most likely end up far beyond just like a back and forth between me and DJ Academics. You know what I mean? It's gonna go. I mean, it'll definitely be all around, all over. So
Oh, boring. All right, cool conversation. That was something. Everyone, thank you so much for watching, and a special shout out to all my Patreon patrons, my YouTube members, and my Twitch subs. If you'd like to learn how you can contribute even more than you already are by simply watching the video, you can check the links down below, which will unlock a special feature depending on the platform that you subscribe to, such as Patreon here, that will get your name right here on this wall. Thank you so much, guys, again for watching, and have a good one.